Welcome, brave wanderers, to the misty rivers and shadowed forests of Organa land, where rain-soaked roads wind past towering pines, and bridges span waters that hide more than just fish. Some of these crossings are known for strange cold breezes, unexplained shadows, and ghostly encounters that leave travelers shaken and wide-eyed. Tonight, we explore the 25 haunted bridges in Oregon with strange cold breezes, where the air chills without warning, whispers echo across the water, and unseen presences watch from the dark. These bridges are not just passages, they are thresholds to the unknown, where the past lingers and spirits refuse to let go. The St. John's Bridge in Portland, Oregon, stretches gracefully across the Willamette River, its Gothic spires and sweeping suspension cables making it one of the city's most iconic landmarks. Completed in 1931, the bridge was designed not only as a functional crossing, but as a monument to architectural beauty. Its towering arches and elegant lines have long captured the imagination of photographers, pedestrians, and commuters alike. Yet beneath its aesthetic grandeur lies a reputation shrouded in mystery and the supernatural. Visitors and locals alike have reported sudden gusts of icy wind that seem to originate from nowhere. Shadowy figures walking along the cables, whispers carried by the breeze, and lights flickering across the deck even in the brightest of days. These reports suggest that the bridge is more than steel, and suspension it is a place where the physical and the spectral intersect. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at St. John's Bridge is the sudden gusts of cold wind that appear without warning. Pedestrians crossing the span have described walking along the bridge on calm days, only to be met with an intense chill that seems to emanate from the very structure itself. These winds often swirl around the towers and along the cables, sometimes forming localized gusts that knock hats from heads or ripple clothing despite the absence of any natural weather patterns. Witnesses report that the winds are often accompanied by the faint sense of being watched, an eerie awareness that something unseen is present on the bridge. Many speculate that these sudden chills are not natural at all, but the manifestation of lingering spirits or energies bound to the bridge Gothic architecture. Shadowy figures on the cables are another recurring phenomenon. Observers from both the deck and the river below have claimed to see silhouettes moving along the suspension cables, seemingly balancing with an unnatural ease. These figures are usually dark, featureless, and fleeting, vanishing when anyone attempts a closer look. Some witnesses describe them as human in shape, while others report forms that seem to stretch or distort unnaturally as they traverse the steel. The figures often appear during twilight or at night, their movements slow and deliberate, almost as if performing some unseen task or ritual. The mystery of these spectral pedestrians adds a layer of tension to crossing the bridge, leaving many to question whether they are seeing people, shadows, or something far more ethereal. Whispers carried by the breeze are yet another element of the bridge's haunted reputation. People walking or cycling along the bridge report hearing faint voices, sometimes laughter, sometimes fragmented words seemingly coming from the air itself. These whispers often appear to originate from above, near the towers, or from along the cables, and they vanish when someone tries to locate the source. Witnesses describe the voices as urgent, sometimes melancholic, and occasionally eerily familiar, as if the sounds are echoes from another era. Hikers and photographers along the riverbank have also reported hearing faint murmurs, carried over the water by the breeze, that vanish when they look toward the bridge. The whispers create an unsettling atmosphere, suggesting that the bridge carries not just steel and concrete, but memories and presences from the past. Flickering lights are among the most visual aspects of St. John's Bridge's paranormal activity. Even on sunny days, pedestrians and drivers have reported seeing lights along the deck or in the towers flicker inexplicably. These flashes are brief but intense, illuminating areas of the bridge for a moment before vanishing. Electrical systems are often checked and found to be functioning normally, leaving witnesses baffled. Some theorize that the flickering lights correspond with the movement of spectral figures, illuminating them briefly as they pass. Others suggest that the lights are residual energy from past tragedies or events, manifesting visually as a warning or presence. Regardless of the explanation, the effect of the flickering lights on those crossing the bridge is profound, heightening the sense that the structure is alive with unseen activity. The history of St. John's Bridge may help explain its spectral reputation. The construction of the bridge was a massive undertaking during the early 20th century, requiring thousands of workers to labor at dizzying heights. Accidents were not uncommon, and some workers tragically lost their lives during construction. Over the decades, the bridge has also been the site of suicides and mysterious deaths, leaving behind stories and memories that seem to linger. Many believe that these events have left a spiritual imprint on the bridge, resulting in the unusual winds, flickering lights, whispers, and shadowy figures that visitors continue to report. The bridge's Gothic architecture, with its towering spires and dramatic cables, may act as a conduit for these residual energies, creating an environment ripe for paranormal activity. Despite its haunting reputation, St. John's Bridge remains a beloved and frequently visited landmark. Photographers, tourists, and locals continue to cross its span, drawn by its beauty and grandeur. Yet, those who are aware of its haunted history often describe a sense of heightened awareness when on the bridge, a feeling that they are not alone. Stories of icy gusts, shadowy figures, whispering voices, and flickering lights are passed along by guides, locals, and thrill-seekers, ensuring that the bridge's mysterious character remains a part of its legacy. The Burnside Bridge in Portland, Oregon, spans the Willamette River, with a history as long and complex as the city itself. Opened in 1926, this historic drawbridge has served as a vital artery for transportation, linking the east and west sides of Portland for nearly a century. Its steel trusses, mechanical draw mechanisms, and broad pedestrian walkway make it both functional and visually striking. Yet the bridge is also renowned for stories that reach far beyond its physical structure. Locals and visitors alike have reported ghostly footsteps along its walkway, sudden cold breezes brushing against their necks, shadowy figures appearing under the dim glow of street lamps, and phantom car horns echoing long after traffic has cleared. These accounts suggest that the Burnside Bridge is not only a crossing over water, but a portal into the mysterious and the spectral. One of the most frequently reported phenomena on the Burnside Bridge is the presence of ghostly footsteps along the pedestrian walkways. People crossing the bridge have often described hearing the sound of hurried or deliberate steps following them, even when no one else is in sight. The footsteps sometimes come in rhythmic patterns, as if echoing the pace of a worker, traveler, or pedestrian from a bygone era. In other instances, they appear sporadic, fading and reappearing, creating the unnerving impression that someone unseen is constantly moving alongside or behind those on the bridge. Witnesses describe turning to look, only to find empty walkways and shadows that offer no explanation for the sounds. The persistence of these phantom footsteps has led many to believe that the bridge is a repository of echoes from the past, retaining the residual energy of countless individuals who have crossed it over the decades. Accompanying the footsteps are sudden cold breezes that seem to defy natural explanation. Visitors frequently report feeling a sharp chill against their necks or arms while walking the bridge, even on otherwise warm and calm days. These cold spots are often localized, appearing in one section of the walkway while surrounding areas remain unaffected. Some have described the breeze as carrying a sense of urgency or warning, an almost tactile reminder that the bridge is not entirely empty. The sensation is accompanied by goosebumps or a sudden awareness of unseen presence, and many pedestrians instinctively quicken their pace, as if the chill itself is urging them to move on. The unpredictability and intensity of these breezes suggest that they are more than just wind. They are manifestations of something lingering in the air, something tied to the bridge's long and sometimes tragic history. Shadowy figures under the street lamps add a visual element to the bridge's haunting. Witnesses have reported seeing dark silhouettes along the walkway or near the bridge's steel supports. These figures are often human in shape, but lack discernible features, appearing as fleeting shapes that vanish when approached. Some appear to linger near the edges, watching silently, while others seem to pace or move in deliberate patterns reminiscent of pedestrians, workers, or travelers from earlier decades. Photographers and late-night walkers have captured moments when a figure seems to appear briefly in their peripheral vision, only to dissolve into darkness moments later. These shadowy apparitions contribute to the bridge's eerie atmosphere, reinforcing the notion that the Burnside Bridge is not simply a structure of steel and concrete, but a vessel for residual presence. Phantom car horns are another unusual phenomenon reported on the bridge, even long after traffic is cleared and the streets below are silent. Some witnesses hear the blaring of horns or the revving of engines. The sounds often come in bursts, echoing across the steel trusses and reverberating along the riverbanks. Drivers and pedestrians alike have paused, expecting to see vehicles approaching, only to find the bridge empty. The horns are sometimes accompanied by faint screeching or the distant roar of tires, giving the impression of an accident that never actually occurred. Some speculate that these sounds are echoes of traffic from decades past, recorded in the bridge's structure and released sporadically as a reminder of the countless journeys that have passed over its span. The history of the Burnside Bridge may explain why so many believe it to be haunted. Throughout its near century of existence, the bridge has witnessed accidents, mechanical failures, and tragedies, including fatal falls and vehicle collisions. The bridge has also been a silent witness to the everyday lives of countless Portland residents, from hurried commuters to wandering pedestrians. Some believe that the strong emotional energy and human activity embedded in the bridge have left residual imprints, manifesting as phantom footsteps, cold breezes, and shadowy figures. Others suggest that the bridge's architecture, its steel trusses, draw mechanisms, and open spans, creates an environment conducive to unusual phenomena, amplifying natural sounds and drafts into experiences that feel distinctly supernatural. Despite its chilling reputation, the Burnside Bridge remains a heavily traveled route and a celebrated landmark. Tourists and locals alike cross its span to admire views of the Willamette River, the city skyline, and the bridge's architectural elegance. Yet, those aware of the haunted reports often describe a heightened awareness when walking along the bridge, a sense that the shadows, whispers, and footsteps could appear at any moment. Late-night pedestrians especially report an uneasy feeling, sensing that they share the space with unseen presences from the past. The Sellwood Bridge in Portland, Oregon, spans the Willamette River with a quiet dignity, connecting the Sellwood Moorland neighborhood to the broader city. Originally opened in 1925 and replaced with a modern structure in recent years, the bridge has long been a vital passage for vehicles, cyclists, and pedestrians alike. By day, it offers sweeping views of the river, surrounding greenery, and city skyline. But by night, the Sellwood Bridge transforms into something entirely different, a place imbued with eerie activity and chilling reports of the supernatural. Travelers crossing the span after dark often recount unsettling experiences, cold gusts that chilled to the bone, whispers carried from the water below, shadowy shapes that vanish when approached, and phantom figures pacing along the sidewalks. For those attuned to its haunted reputation, the bridge is far more than steel and concreted as a corridor where the living and spectral coexist. One of the most common reports involves sudden cold gusts that seem to come from nowhere. Pedestrians describe walking along the bridge on clear nights, only to feel a sharp, icy wind sweep across their bodies, particularly around the shoulders and neck. These gusts are often localized, affecting only small areas of the walkway, while surrounding sections remain calm. The intensity and suddenness of the chill have led some to stop in their tracks, shivering as if confronted by an unseen presence. Unlike natural winds that follow predictable patterns, these gusts appear to respond to the movement of pedestrians, sometimes following or even preceding them along the span. Many witnesses report an accompanying sense of being observed, as though something unseen is pacing them, mirroring their steps with deliberate intent. Whispers from the river below add another layer of the bridge's supernatural reputation. Those walking the bridge at night often claim to hear faint murmurs, fragmented words, or even soft laughter seemingly rising from the Willamette itself. The voices are difficult to pinpoint, seeming to come from everywhere at once, carried on the night air and amplified by the open structure of the bridge. Some pedestrians report the whispers, repeating their names or phrases they had spoken aloud moments before, creating an unsettling sense of immediacy. The phenomenon is particularly disorienting for cyclists and runners, who feel as though the water is speaking directly to them, even when no one else is nearby. These auditory experiences are often paired with the sudden cold gusts, heightening the sense that the bridge is alive with residual energies from the past. Shadowy shapes are a frequent visual manifestation on the Selwood Bridge. Some of these shadows appear humanoid, pacing back and forth or leaning against the railing as if watching the river below. Others are more amorphous, stretching or blurring as they move across the deck. Pedestrians who attempt to focus on the shapes often find them gone in the next instant, leaving only the impression of presence. Witnesses consistently report a feeling of being watched, as though the shadows are tracking their movements or silently observing their crossing. Photographers attempting night shots of the bridge have occasionally captured unexplained dark figures in the images, further fueling the belief that these are not mere tricks of light or imagination. Phantom figures pacing the sidewalks add yet another eerie element. Several pedestrians and late-night commuters have reported seeing what appears to be a person walking deliberately along the walkway, only to disappear when approached or when a flashlight is shown in their direction. Some accounts suggest these specters follow the rhythm of the walker's own footsteps, sometimes appearing just ahead or slightly behind, vanishing only at the bridge's midpoint or near the far end. The repetition of these sightings suggests that the Selwood Bridge may be imprinted with the memory of past travelers, or perhaps those who met untimely ends along its span. The history of the Selwood Bridge provides context for its haunting. The original bridge, constructed in the early 20th century, served as a vital crossing during a period of rapid growth in Portland. Over the years, it witnessed countless accidents, mechanical failures, and at least a few tragic deaths, leaving behind stories and memories that some believe continue to linger. Even after the modern bridge replaced the original structure, the site retained its reputation for unusual activity, as if the spirits of the past had migrated to the new construction. Many who cross the bridge at night sense the presence of those who once walked or worked along its span, giving credence to the reports of phantom footsteps, gusts, whispers, and shadowy forms. For those who traverse the Selwood Bridge after dark, the experience is a mixture of awe, unease, and fascination. While the sweeping views of the river and city remain captivating, the haunting phenomena add an unpredictable element that keeps pedestrians alert. The cold gusts, whispered voices, and fleeting shadows create a persistent sense that the bridge is not entirely empty, as though unseen observers continue to move and watch. Visitors often recount the experience with a mixture of wonder and trepidation, sharing stories that reinforce the bridge's eerie reputation. The Hawthorne Bridge in Portland, Oregon, holds a unique place in both the city's history and its haunted lore. Completed in 1910, it is the oldest vertical lift bridge in Portland, spanning the Willamette River and connecting the east and west sides of the city. Its steel framework, towering lift towers, and intricate mechanical components have made it an enduring symbol of engineering and urban connectivity. But beyond its architectural significance, the Hawthorne Bridge carries with it a reputation for the supernatural. Reports of cold winds that seem to pass through the body, flickering lights, and ghostly silhouettes climbing the bridge's steel supports have circulated for decades, drawing curiosity, unease, and fascination. Many believe that these phenomena are tied to the tragic history of the bridge's construction, when workers endured dangerous conditions, some losing their lives to falls or accidents along the rising steel. One of the most commonly reported experiences on the Hawthorne Bridge involves sudden and intense cold winds. Pedestrians, cyclists, and even late-night joggers have described feeling icy drafts that seem to penetrate through clothing and bone. Unlike ordinary gusts, these chills often appear without warning and are highly localized. A person may be walking along a section of the bridge on a calm, mild evening, only to be met with a piercing cold that seems to emanate from the steel itself. Witnesses often report a heightened sense of awareness during these occurrences, feeling as if unseen presences are brushing past them or following their path. Some describe a sensation of being simultaneously heavy and light, as though the air itself is resisting movement, adding a spectral weight to the experience. Flickering lights are another hallmark of the bridge's haunting. Street lamps and structural lights along the walkways have been observed to dim and brighten without any electrical cause. Commuters on the bridge at night often notice these sudden flashes and dimming patterns, which sometimes correspond with other phenomena, such as the movement of shadowy figures or sudden gusts. Engineers and city maintenance personnel frequently inspect the lights and confirm that the electrical systems are functioning normally, leaving witnesses puzzled. The flickering lights add an element of unpredictability and suspense, creating an atmosphere where the familiar becomes unfamiliar and every shadow is potentially more than it seems. Perhaps the most unsettling reports are those of ghostly silhouettes climbing the bridge's steel supports. Pedestrians and cyclists have recounted seeing dark forms scaling the towers or clinging to beams, moving in ways that defy natural human balance. These figures often appear humanoid, but lack distinguishing features, giving the impression of shadowy echoes of past workers. Some observers claim that the silhouettes pause to look out over the river or the city, then vanish without a trace when approached. Others report that the figures repeat the same climbing motions over and over, as if eternally reliving the dangerous work of constructing the bridge. The sight of these spectral workers is often accompanied by a feeling of vertigo or unease, a physical reaction to the suggestion of heights and peril, even when safely on the walkway below. The Hawthorne Bridge's haunted reputation is closely tied to its construction history. Built in the early 20th century, the bridge's erection involved large crews of laborers working at dizzying heights, often with minimal safety measures by today's standards. Tragic accidents were not uncommon, and some workers fell to their deaths, their lives ending in sudden violent ways that left a lingering mark on the site. Over the years, these deaths became intertwined with tales of ghostly presences, particularly along the bridge's walkways and lift towers. Some believe that the spirits of these workers remain bound to the steel and the mechanical components of the bridge, replaying the motions of their labor or reaching out for the lives they lost. In addition to the ghosts of workers, some witnesses suggest that the bridge itself holds residual energy from decades of human activity. Commuters, cyclists, and pedestrians crossing the Hawthorne Bridge have reported sudden sensations of heaviness, the feeling of unseen hands guiding or resisting movement, and fleeting impressions of being accompanied by invisible entities. The bridge, a constant passageway in the daily life of Portland, seems to preserve and amplify these experiences, turning ordinary crossings into moments of heightened awareness and occasional dread. Despite the eerie reports, the Hawthorne Bridge remains a vital and well-loved part of Portland. Its walkways and lanes carry thousands of people every day, from early morning commuters to late-night pedestrians seeking views of the Willamette. For many, the haunting tales are just stories, adding character and intrigue to the structure. For others, the bridge is a place of genuine suspense, where the sensation of being followed, watched, or brushed by unseen presences is as real as the cold steel beneath their hands. The combination of history, engineering, and spectral activity gives the Hawthorne Bridge a dual identity, both practical and supernatural. The Morrison Bridge in Portland, Oregon, is more than a vital crossing over the Willamette River. It is a landmark steeped in history, mystery, and spectral tales. Connecting the east and west sides of the city, this steel truss bridge has served countless commuters, pedestrians, and cyclists since its opening in 1958. While its engineering and role in the city's transportation network are well known, the bridge is equally recognized for its reports of ghostly apparitions, unexplained shadows, and strange occurrences that defy explanation. Visitors frequently recount icy drafts sweeping past them, the faint echo of traffic long gone, and fleeting figures along the pedestrian walkways. These experiences suggest that the Morrison Bridge is not merely a structure of steel and concrete, but a place where the present meets the echoes of the past, where unseen presences linger and watch over those who cross. One of the most commonly reported phenomena on the Morrison Bridge is the sensation of sudden, icy drafts. Pedestrians and cyclists often describe feeling chills that pass through their bodies, even on calm, warm evenings. These cold gusts seem localized, affecting only specific sections of the walkway while leaving surrounding areas untouched. Witnesses describe the wind as moving against them in unnatural patterns, sometimes brushing across shoulders, arms, or necks, as if guided by invisible hands. The experience is frequently accompanied by a sense of unease, as though someone or something is walking alongside them, unseen yet palpably present. The chilling effect leaves many hurriedly crossing the bridge, casting anxious glances toward the railings and darkened corners. Equally eerie are the unexplained shadows and fleeting figures that have been observed along the bridge as pedestrian paths. Witnesses report seeing humanoid shapes, often indistinct and dark, moving in patterns that mimic human activity but vanish when approached directly. Some shadows appear to linger near the railings, as though gazing at the Willamette River below, while others pace the walkway, vanishing and reappearing in a rhythmic manner. Cyclists and late-night walkers have noted the shapes gliding along the bridge, creating the impression of additional commuters who seem to exist only in the periphery of vision. The fleeting figures are reported in both the modern sections of the bridge and near the older steel trusses, suggesting a continuity of spectral presence tied to the bridge itself rather than a single era or event. Another common feature of the Morrison Bridge haunting is the sound of phantom traffic. Even during hours when the bridge is completely empty, visitors sometimes hear the faint hum of engines, the rumble of tires, or the distant honk of horns. The noises often echo across the steel trusses and along the riverbanks, creating an auditory illusion of a bridge crowded with vehicles from another time. Some pedestrians have reported hearing these echoes, coinciding with shadowy movements or sudden gusts, further enhancing the sense that the bridge is alive with unseen activity. The phantom sounds are distinct enough to create disorientation, making one question whether the bridge is truly empty or whether the past is momentarily bleeding into the present. The origins of these ghostly occurrences on the Morrison Bridge are likely tied to its long history. The current structure, completed in 1958, replaced an earlier bridge that had itself been a hub of city life and occasional tragedy. Over decades, the bridge has witnessed accidents, mechanical failures, and countless everyday crossings. The sheer volume of human activity, combined with the occasional fatal incident, may have left residual energy imprinted on the steel and concrete, giving rise to the reports of apparitions and phantom activity. Some believe that the shadows represent commuters, workers, or pedestrians who once traveled the bridge, replaying their routines in an eternal loop, visible only to those sensitive to the echoes of history. In addition to the physical and auditory phenomena, the Morrison Bridge is known for producing a heightened sense of being watched. Pedestrians often describe a prickling awareness along the back of the neck or the sensation that someone is mirroring their movements, even in empty sections of the bridge. This psychological aspect of the haunting can intensify the experience, making each gust of wind, flicker of light, or shadowy movement more potent. Witnesses report that their sense of time can warp while crossing the bridge at night, with moments stretching into minutes as they navigate the eerie presence that seems to inhabit the walkway. Despite the ghostly reputation, the Morrison Bridge remains an essential and heavily trafficked landmark. Commuters, cyclists, and tourists cross it daily, appreciating the expansive views of the Willamette River, downtown Portland, and the city skyline. Yet for those aware of its haunted reputation, the bridge offers more than practical utility, offers a moment of suspense, a brush with the unexplained, and a connection to the city's layered history. Local enthusiasts often recount tales of their encounters, sharing stories of icy drafts, phantom traffic, and fleeting shadows with new pedestrians, perpetuating the bridge's spectral legend. Ultimately, the Morrison Bridge serves as both a functional crossing and a mysterious conduit for Portland's past. The cold winds that sweep across its walkways, the shadowy figures glimpsed in the corners of vision, and the faint echoes of traffic long vanished remind visitors that the bridge holds more than structural significance. It holds stories, energies, and presences that persist beyond the everyday crossings. Whether these experiences are the result of residual human energy, lingering spirits, or the interplay of imagination and environment, the Morrison Bridge remains a place where history, mystery, and the supernatural converge. Every nighttime crossing becomes an encounter with the unknown, where pedestrians share space with unseen watchers, and where the ordinary act of walking across the river becomes a journey into the haunted and the inexplicable. The Marquam Bridge in Portland, Oregon, is an imposing structure, stretching over the Willamette River, with its twin decks carrying traffic between the city east and west sides. Completed in 1966, it is a vital artery of the city, accommodating thousands of vehicles each day. Beyond its engineering significance, however, the bridge has earned a reputation for haunting phenomena. Reports of sudden chills, flickering lights, shadowy forms appearing in the lanes at night, and invisible presences following pedestrians have circulated for decades. The stories speak to a bridge that is not merely a passageway over water, but a site where human tragedy and spectral echoes intertwine, leaving some visitors unsettled and others profoundly curious. One of the most frequently reported experiences on the Marquam Bridge is the sudden appearance of intense chills. Commuters and pedestrians describe moments when the temperature seems to drop dramatically, the cold biting through jackets and coats. These chills are often localized, appearing in isolated sections of the bridge, while surrounding areas remain unaffected. Witnesses have noted that the sensation is not merely a physical cold, but carries a psychological weight, as though the air itself is charged with an unseen presence. Some describe the experience as feeling brushed by an invisible hand, or followed by an entity just out of sight, heightening the sense of vulnerability in a place usually dominated by the hum of engines and the glow of streetlights. Flickering lights are another hallmark of the bridge's paranormal reputation. Street lamps, lane markers, and structural lights along the decks sometimes dim or flare without any mechanical explanation. Drivers traveling at night have reported sudden bursts of brightness, followed by darkness, creating an unsettling rhythm that seems to respond to their movements. Pedestrians crossing on foot have noted the lights blinking in patterns that appear purposeful, almost as if signaling or reacting to those on the bridge. Engineers and maintenance crews have repeatedly inspected the electrical systems and confirmed that the lights are functioning correctly, yet the reports persist, adding to the bridge's aura of mystery. Shadowy forms are among the most unnerving phenomena reported on the Marquam Bridge. Drivers and pedestrians alike have seen dark figures moving across lanes or along the edges of the bridge at night. These shapes are typically indistinct, humanoid but lacking clear features, and vanish when approached or when drivers attempt to focus on them. Some witnesses have described seeing figures standing near lane dividers or pacing along the walkways, only to disappear into thin air moments later. Cyclists have reported sudden glimpses of shadows that seem to mirror their own movements, creating an unnerving sense of being watched and followed. For those traversing the bridge after dark, these appearances transform an ordinary commute into an encounter with the unknown. The origins of these hauntings are often linked to the history of accidents and fatalities on the Marquam Bridge. Over its decades of use, the bridge has been the site of numerous traffic accidents, falls, and other tragedies. Some believe that the spirits of those who met untimely deaths linger in the lanes, replaying moments of fear or attempting to guide or warn those who cross after dark. The reports of chills, shadows, and flickering lights may be manifestations of residual energy, echoes of lives abruptly ended and preserved in the very structure of the bridge. In addition to visual and physical phenomena, many pedestrians report an acute sense of being followed while crossing the bridge. This feeling often coincides with the appearance of shadowy forms or sudden chills, creating a palpable tension. Witnesses describe a sensation of presence behind them, sometimes catching glimpses of movement out of the corner of their eye. The sensation is so compelling that some hurried across the span, glancing over shoulders repeatedly, even when alone on the pedestrian walkway. The feeling of an unseen companion, sometimes perceived as protective, sometimes as menacing, adds a psychological depth to the haunting that extends beyond simple visual or tactile experiences. The Marquam Bridge also seems to amplify ordinary fears, turning small anomalies into moments of heightened awareness. A flickering streetlight, a sudden gust of wind, or a distant vehicle's headlights can trigger reports of ghostly activity. Blending history, environment, and imagination, pedestrians and drivers alike find themselves hyper-aware of the bridge's steel beams, traffic patterns, and shadows, creating an immersive experience where reality and the supernatural appear to intersect. Despite these chilling accounts, the Marquam Bridge remains a crucial infrastructure of Portland, heavily used every day by thousands of commuters, pedestrians, and cyclists. Its presence as a lifeline across the Willamette River is undeniable. Yet for those who know its haunted reputation, the bridge carries more than just vehicles and foot traffic. It carries the echoes of human lives, tragic accidents, and lingering presences. Late-night travelers, in particular, find themselves crossing a bridge that is alive in ways beyond mere engineering, where the atmosphere itself seems charged with history and unseen watchers. Ultimately, the Marquam Bridge embodies a blend of human achievement and spectral intrigue. The sudden chills, flickering lights, and shadowy figures are a reminder that even the most utilitarian structures can become repositories of memory, tragedy, and perhaps consciousness beyond the ordinary. Those who traverse it at night walk not only over water, but through an invisible layer of history, where accidents, lost lives, and echoes of the past linger in the cold steel and quiet walkways. Each crossing becomes an encounter with both the tangible and the intangible, a confrontation with the bridge's dual identity as a functional roadway and a haunted passage where unseen presences continue to move, watch, and linger silently, observing the living as they traverse the river below. The Fremont Bridge in Portland, Oregon, is a striking feature of the city's skyline. Celebrated for its elegant arches and its role as a vital crossing over the Willamette River. Opened in 1973, it stands as the tallest bridge in Portland and carries thousands of vehicles daily along its expansive decks. While its architectural grandeur and engineering significance are well known, the Fremont Bridge has also earned a reputation for strange and unsettling phenomena. Visitors, commuters, and late-night travelers have reported icy gusts that seem to appear from nowhere, shadowy figures moving along the upper spans, and faint whispers carried by the river breeze. Tragedy and unexplained forces seem to converge, leaving those who traverse it with an unforgettable sense of unease. One of the most commonly reported experiences on the Fremont Bridge is the sudden appearance of intense cold. Pedestrians and maintenance workers describe feeling icy gusts that strike without warning, often localized to specific areas of the bridge. The chill is not simply a natural wind but carries a sense of deliberate presence, brushing across shoulders, necks, or arms in a way that feels intentional. Some travelers recount a sensation of being followed by this invisible cold, as if an unseen entity is pacing alongside them. The effect can be unnerving, prompting hurried crossings or lingering glances toward the bridge's upper arches, where the cold seems strongest and the air thick with an unidentifiable presence. Shadowy figures are another frequent phenomenon reported along the Fremont Bridge. These shapes are typically humanoid in form but indistinct, gliding or pacing along the upper spans in a manner that mimics human behavior. Drivers and pedestrians alike have caught glimpses of these forms in their peripheral vision, only to have them vanish when focused upon directly. Some maintenance workers have reported seeing silhouettes walking along maintenance catwalks, moving independently of any physical observer, and disappearing as if stepping into thin air. Cyclists and pedestrians crossing at night describe shadows that mirror their own movements or seem to watch silently from high above, creating a heightened sense of vulnerability on an otherwise familiar route. The bridge is also associated with auditory anomalies. Witnesses report hearing faint whispers carried on the river breeze. voices that seem to echo from the upper decks and the arches above. These murmurs are often indistinct, sometimes resembling fragments of conversation or names being called. Pedestrians describe the whispers as coming from multiple directions at once, intensifying the disorientation and fear. In some accounts, the whispers coincide with gusts of cold air or the sudden appearance of shadows, suggesting that multiple phenomena are interconnected, forming a complex tapestry of haunting experiences that cannot be easily explained by natural causes. Historical context may provide insight into the Fremont Bridge's spectral activity. While the bridge itself was completed in the 1970s, its location and construction intersected with decades of industrial and transportation history. Workers have reported that the bridge seems particularly active in areas tied to construction scaffolding, catwalks, and maintenance corridors. Some speculate that residual energy from accidents, falls, or other traumatic events during the construction period may have imprinted itself on the structure. Others believe the ghosts could be tied to the river itself, with the Willamette carrying echoes of past tragedies, accidents, and drownings that resonate through the bridge above. The Fremont Bridge's haunting extends beyond the visual and auditory. Many witnesses report a palpable sense of being observed or followed, especially when traversing the upper spans at night. Pedestrians often feel an unseen presence pacing behind them, heightening their awareness of shadows and cold gusts. Some describe sudden anxiety or the feeling that the bridge itself is aware of their presence, responding to their movements in subtle, unexplainable ways. These psychological sensations, combined with the physical manifestations, create an immersive experience where ordinary travel across the river becomes an encounter with the supernatural. In addition to these more traditional reports, travelers have noted unusual light patterns along the arches and upper decks. Street lights, vehicle headlights, and navigation lights sometimes appear to flicker or flare without mechanical cause, casting moving shadows that seem alive. Observers often describe these flickers as synchronized with other phenomena, such as gusts of cold or whispered voices, enhancing the impression that the bridge is responding to unseen stimuli. Engineers have inspected the lighting systems repeatedly, confirming that all electrical components are functioning correctly. Yet, the reports persist, suggesting that the activity is not simply a technical anomaly. Despite its reputation, the Fremont Bridge remains an essential conduit for Portland, accommodating heavy daily traffic, pedestrians, and cyclists. For many, the bridge is simply a means to cross the Willamette, offering expansive views of the city skyline and the river below. However, for those attuned to its haunted reputation, crossing the Fremont Bridge is a reminder that even the most modern, utilitarian structures can harbor layers of history, memory, and unexplained presence. Late-night crossings, in particular, become encounters with a bridge that is alive in ways beyond the ordinary, where gusts of icy air, shadows on the arches, and whispers from the river converge in a subtle yet unnerving symphony. The Fremont Bridge stands as both a marvel of engineering and a focal point of Portland's spectral lore. Icy gusts that appear from nowhere, moving shadowy figures, and whispers carried by the river breeze are persistent reminders that some structures are more than the sum of their parts. Visitors who traverse the bridge, especially after dark, walk through a space where the city's history and the unexplained coexist, where the ordinary act of crossing becomes a journey into the unknown. Every step along the pedestrian walkway, every glance at the towering arches, and every sensation of cold or presence reinforces the sense that the Fremont Bridge is not only a bridge over water, but a crossing into a space haunted by echoes, shadows, and the lingering spirits of the past. The Sellwood-covered bridge in Portland's Sellwood neighborhood is often admired for its quaint, rustic charm. Constructed in 1925, it stands as one of the few remaining covered bridges in the city. Its wooden beams and latticework, evoking a sense of history and nostalgia. Spanning the Willamette River, the bridge has long served as a passageway for both vehicles and pedestrians, connecting neighborhoods and offering views of the riverbanks. Yet beneath its picturesque exterior lies a reputation for haunting. Visitors have reported cold breezes inside the covered structure, phantom footsteps echoing along the wooden planks, and fleeting shadows that vanish into corners and crevices. Some locals whisper that the spirits of past travelers linger here, replaying tragic events from decades ago, making the Selwood-covered bridge a site where beauty and the uncanny converge. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the sudden chill that sweeps through the bridge's interior. Passers-by often describe moments when the air turns unexpectedly cold, even on warm summer days. The temperature drop is not gradual, but sharp, localized, and impossible to explain by natural wind alone. Many pedestrians report feeling a brush against their shoulders or the sensation of a presence close by, as if someone or something shares the narrow passage with them. Drivers, slowing down to cross, have remarked on icy drafts seeping through open windows, causing the hair on their arms to stand. The cold seems almost sentient, targeting individuals rather than affecting the bridge evenly, reinforcing the idea that it is tied to lingering spirits or residual energy from the past. Phantom footsteps are another hallmark of the Selwood-covered bridge. Numerous witnesses describe hearing the sound of shoes striking the wooden planks, pacing along the walkway, or approaching from behind. Sometimes the footsteps match the rhythm of the person crossing, seeming to echo their movements. Other times, they are entirely independent, coming from directions where no one is visible. Pedestrians have reported pausing mid-crossing, glancing back into the shadows, only to see nothing. The sounds are often accompanied by a low, unidentifiable murmur, as though faint voices are carried on the drafty air inside the covered span. Drivers have noted hearing these echoes even when the bridge appears completely empty, creating an eerie sense of shared space with invisible companions. Shadowy figures are also commonly reported within the bridge. Witnesses describe fleeting silhouettes, dark forms that flit along the sides of the wooden trusses or at the ends of the bridge. These shadows are often humanoid in shape but indistinct, appearing to move with purpose yet vanishing when approached. Some observers claim to have seen figures pause in the center of the bridge, watching silently before fading into the corners. The movement of these shadows is subtle yet deliberate, creating the impression that the bridge itself is occupied by unseen inhabitants. Pedestrians have recounted stepping carefully along the planks, sensing the shadows nearby, and feeling the presence of watchers in the dim light that filters through the wooden sides. Historical context may help explain some of the Selwood-covered bridge's haunted reputation. Over its nearly a century-long existence, the bridge has witnessed countless accidents, mishaps, and tragedies. Travelers slipping on wet planks, vehicles losing control on rainy nights, and pedestrians caught in unexpected river breezes have all contributed to the lore of lingering spirits. Some theorists suggest that the bridge, like other age structures, may have absorbed these moments of trauma, leaving traces of residual energy that replay under certain conditions. Others believe the spirits of travelers who perished or experienced misfortune continue to walk the bridge, repeating their journeys or interacting with the living in subtle, haunting ways. The bridge also seems to amplify ordinary sensations into extraordinary experiences. A gust of wind through a gap in the siding, the creak of a wooden beam, or the distant hum of traffic can trigger heightened awareness and fear. Witnesses often find themselves hyper-conscious of their surroundings, scanning the wooden trusses, the shadows, and the ends of the bridge for signs of movement. This amplification turns routine crossings into moments of suspense and heightened perception, where every sound and shift of light feels laden with potential supernatural significance. In addition to visual and auditory phenomena, many describe a profound psychological effect when inside the bridge. A sense of being watched, the feeling of unseen company, and a subtle unease pervade the air, affecting both pedestrians and drivers. Some individuals have reported that these feelings are strongest at dusk or nighttime, when the bridge's wooden interior takes on deep shadows and the river below reflects little light. The combination of architectural enclosure, natural darkness, and ambient sounds creates an immersive environment where the supernatural seems plausible and ever-present. Despite its haunted reputation, the Selwood-covered bridge remains a functional and beloved piece of Portland infrastructure. Residents and commuters continue to use it daily, appreciating its aesthetic appeal and historic significance. Yet for those aware of the stories, crossing the bridge is never entirely ordinary. Each step on the worn planks, each glance into the corners and beams, and each sense of cold or unseen presence serves as a reminder that this bridge is a threshold between the tangible world and the realm of lingering spirits. The Selwood-covered bridge is a place where history and the unexplained intertwine. Cold breezes, phantom footsteps, and fleeting shadows are persistent reminders that structures imbued with decades of human activity can harbor echoes of the past. Visitors who traverse the bridge may find themselves not only crossing the Willamette River, but also encountering fragments of lives that came before. Witnessing remnants of accidents, misfortunes, and human presence etched into the wooden beams, the bridge becomes more than a crossing. It is a living memory, a place where beauty and unease coexist, and where the spirits of travelers long gone may continue their silent journeys. Rocky Creek Bridge, perched dramatically along the Oregon coast near Newport, is renowned for its breathtaking views of the Pacific Ocean and rugged cliffs. Completed in 1927, this graceful concrete arch spans a deep canyon, connecting portions of the scenic Highway 1 and offering travelers a momentary pause to gaze out over the crashing waves below. By day, the bridge is a marvel of engineering and natural beauty, attracting photographers, tourists, and nature enthusiasts eager to capture the interplay of sunlight and surf. Yet beneath its picturesque appearance, Rocky Creek Bridge carries a reputation for strange, unsettling phenomena. Locals and visitors alike have reported sudden fogs that seem to roll across the bridge without warning, chilling gusts that pierce the body, and ghostly figures appearing along the cliffs or at the edges of the roadway. The bridge seems to exist in a liminal space, a threshold between the natural and the supernatural, where beauty and unease coexist in haunting balance. One of the most frequently reported experiences at Rocky Creek Bridge is the sudden onset of thick fog. Unlike the typical coastal mist, this fog often appears sharply and without precedent, blanketing the bridge and canyon in a dense, white haze. Visitors describe losing all sense of distance and direction, the edges of the bridge fading into a gray void. Pedestrians crossing the bridge report feeling a strange pressure in the air, as though unseen eyes are watching them from every direction. Drivers recount moments when the fog seems to separate them from the rest of the world, creating a surreal environment where the familiar becomes alien. In many accounts, the fog is accompanied by a chilling wind that carries a sensation of presence and almost sentient draft that brushes across the skin, unnervingly precise in its timing and direction. Ghostly figures are another hallmark of Rocky Creek Bridge's spectral reputation. Witnesses have reported shadowy forms appearing near the cliffs that flank the bridge, often just at the edge of perception. These figures are described as human in shape but indistinct, emerging briefly before vanishing into the fog or shadows. Some travelers describe seeing faces peering from cliffside outcroppings, or faint silhouettes pacing the edges, as if silently observing those who cross. Hikers and photographers have noted these apparitions in the early morning or late evening, when the light is low and the cliffs cast long shadows, enhancing the sense that the bridge is under watchful eyes. The figures are rarely intrusive, but their mere presence evokes a deep unease, a primal recognition of being observed in a place where the natural world already feels wild and untamed. Lights flickering on and off are also frequently reported at Rocky Creek Bridge. While there are few streetlights along this stretch of Highway 1, travelers have described sudden, inexplicable glows along the concrete rails or misty illumination at the far ends of the bridge. These lights often appear in sync with gusts of wind or shifts in fog density, creating patterns that suggest intent or awareness. Photographers who have set up long exposures to capture sunsets or ocean waves have sometimes captured orbs or glowing anomalies hovering near the bridge's arches or along the cliffs. Engineers have inspected the bridge's electrical infrastructure and found no source for these occurrences, lending credence to the idea that they are not merely technical anomalies but part of a broader pattern of unexplained activity. The sensation of being watched is another common experience. Pedestrians crossing the bridge frequently report an intense awareness, as if unseen eyes are following their movements. Some describe feeling a light touch on the shoulder or a brushing along the arm, though no one is nearby. Drivers recount moments of fleeting peripheral vision, catching glimpses of shapes at the sides of the bridge, only to find the roadway empty upon closer inspection. This psychological effect seems amplified by the isolation of the location. The bridge stretches over a deep canyon with no immediate escape routes, the ocean roaring below, and cliffs rising on either side. The combination of isolation, dramatic elevation, and natural acoustics seems to heighten the perception of presence, making the ordinary act of crossing the bridge a tense and immersive experience. Historical context adds another layer to the bridge's haunted reputation. Rocky Creek Bridge has been a site of accidents and tragedies since its construction. Workers building the bridge risked treacherous heights and unstable footing, and local lore suggests that some did not survive the construction process. Travelers over the decades have lost control of vehicles or fallen victim to slips and trips along the cliff edges, creating a legacy of trauma and unrest associated with the bridge. Some theorists suggest that these past tragedies may have left an imprint, a residual energy that manifests in fogs, gusts, shadows, and flickering lights. Others believe that the spirits of those who perished still linger, watching over the bridge and those who traverse it, replaying moments of fear, caution, or curiosity from their own lives. The bridge's physical features amplify the sense of haunting. Its high, curved arches frame views of cliffs and ocean, creating long shadows and pockets of space where light interacts unpredictably with fog and mist. The wooden railings along the edges, weathered over decades, creak underfoot, sometimes sounding as if someone is walking beside the traveler. The sound of the ocean below echoes up through the canyon, blending with the wind, and creating auditory illusions, phantom voices, footsteps, or faint murmurs that may or may not be real. These subtle cues transform the bridge into an environment where ordinary perceptions are challenged, leaving visitors unsure where natural phenomena end and the supernatural begins. Despite its haunting reputation, Rocky Creek Bridge remains a celebrated landmark along the Oregon coast. Visitors come for its sweeping views, dramatic sunsets, and architectural beauty, often unaware of the bridge's spectral undertones. Yet for those attuned to its reputation, crossing the bridge is more than a simple passage over water and canyon. It is an encounter with a space alive with history, energy, and unexplained phenomena. Each gust of wind, flicker of light, and glimpse of shadow becomes part of an experience that lingers long after leaving the bridge. The Yaquina Bay Bridge in Newport, Oregon, is an architectural gem, celebrated for its graceful Art Deco design and towering arches that span the waters of Yaquina Bay. Completed in 1936 as part of the Scenic Highway 101, the bridge quickly became an iconic feature of the Oregon coast, admired for both its engineering and its visual elegance. By day, the bridge offers sweeping views of the bay, the harbor, and the surrounding hills. Fishermen, photographers, and tourists alike come to marvel at its steel arches and concrete pylons, capturing images of the structure as it stretches across the glimmering water. Yet beneath its aesthetic appeal lies a reputation for the supernatural. The Yaquina Bay Bridge is known not only for its history and design, but also for the unexplained phenomena that have drawn curiosity and unease for decades. Travelers report cold breezes carrying whispers, shadowy forms along the pedestrian path, and flickering lights that appear without any electrical cause, giving the bridge a haunted aura that lingers long after sunset. Many of the reports begin with sudden cold drafts. Pedestrians crossing the bridge have described feeling icy gusts that sweep through the Art Deco railing, and pedestrian walkways, chills that seem impossible given the ambient weather conditions. These breezes often appear without warning and are highly localized, sometimes brushing against a single passerby while leaving the rest of the walkway unaffected. Some witnesses describe the sensation of being followed, as though an unseen presence moves with them, accompanying their journey across the structure. Drivers slowing their vehicles to enjoy the views have also reported abrupt cold spots along the roadway, causing the car windows to fog or frost over, despite mild temperatures. The intensity and precision of these drafts contribute to the bridge's eerie reputation, leaving travelers with a lingering sense that the cold is more than natural wind. Whispers are another common phenomenon associated with the Yaquina Bay Bridge. Witnesses have reported hearing faint voices, carried on the wind, calling out in unintelligible tones or even repeating names. These whispers often coincide with the sudden appearance of cold air, creating a chilling effect that some interpret as spirits attempting communication. Pedestrians frequently pause, straining to locate the source, only to find the walkway empty and silent. The whispers are sometimes described as mournful or urgent, and in a handful of accounts, individuals have felt as though the voices are issuing warnings, compelling them to move quickly across the bridge. Locals suggest that the sounds may be echoes of past tragedies, accidents, falls, or other misfortunes that occurred during the bridge's long history. Shadowy forms are another hallmark of the bridge's haunted lore. Observers walking along the pedestrian paths have recounted glimpses of figures flitting along the edges of the bridge, sometimes standing in the shadows of the arches or near the supporting pylons. These figures are generally indistinct, human-like in silhouette, but lacking clear features, and they vanish when approached. Some travelers report seeing them pacing slowly, appearing to watch or follow the movement of those crossing. Photographers and tourists who linger on the bridge in low-light conditions have occasionally captured vague shapes on long exposures, shapes that vanish when the images are reviewed in daylight. The prevalence of these sightings has created an impression that the bridge is not merely a static structure, but a space occupied by lingering presences, replaying moments from the past or existing independently in the present. Flickering lights add to the surreal quality of the Yaquina Bay Bridge at night. Although streetlights and decorative lighting illuminate the structure, many witnesses have observed lights dimming, brightening, or blinking in patterns that do not correspond to electrical controls or power fluctuations. Some describe the illumination flickering in rhythm with footsteps along the pedestrian walkways, while others report entire sections of the bridge appearing to glow and fade unexpectedly. These visual anomalies, combined with shadows and whispers, create a multifaceted haunting, engaging multiple senses simultaneously and enhancing the impression of a presence beyond the physical world. Historical context provides insight into the bridge's spectral reputation. During construction, workers faced significant risks navigating the high steel arches and deep water below. Records indicate several serious accidents and fatalities, events that some speculate have left a lingering imprint on the structure. These tragic events, repeated over generations, contribute to the narrative that the bridge is a place where the past persists in subtle, unsettling ways. Some theorists suggest that the residual energy of these accidents manifests in the cold drafts, shadows, whispers, and flickering lights reported by witnesses. Others believe that the spirits of those who perished continue to inhabit the bridge, silently observing and occasionally interacting with the living. The architecture of the Yaquina Bay Bridge enhances these experiences. Its soaring Art Deco arches, high vantage points, and open spans create dramatic perspectives, long shadows, and deep recesses where light behaves unpredictably. The wind funnels through the arches and along the deck, amplifying natural gusts and carrying sounds in unexpected directions. Echoes from the water below combine with these architectural effects, sometimes creating auditory illusions, footsteps, distant voices, or murmurs that may or may not be real. Together, these elements create an environment in which the bridge feels alive, responsive, and uncanny, turning an ordinary crossing into a heightened encounter with the unknown. Despite its haunted reputation, the Yaquina Bay Bridge remains a celebrated landmark. Travelers continue to cross it daily, enjoying its views, historic charm, and engineering marvels. Yet for those aware of the tales, every step along the pedestrian path or drive across the arches is laden with anticipation. Cold breezes brush against skin, shadowy forms linger in the corners of vision, and lights flicker unexpectedly, leaving a lingering sense of presence. The bridge is more than a crossing, it is a threshold where beauty, history, and the unexplained converge. The Siasala River Bridge in Florence, Oregon, is a striking example of Art Deco engineering and an enduring symbol of the Oregon coast. Spanning the Siasala River, this graceful bridge rises over the water with sweeping arches and elegant piers that catch the sunlight by day and cast long shadows in the evening. Travelers are drawn to the bridge for its scenic views of the river, the surrounding marshlands, and the nearby Pacific Ocean. Photographers, tourists, and locals alike pause to admire the combination of natural beauty and architectural artistry. Yet beneath its aesthetic charm lies a reputation for the unexplained. The Siasala River Bridge is known for sudden icy winds that seem to appear from nowhere, faint voices echoing over the water, and shadows moving along its arches and walkways. For generations, visitors have reported encounters that suggest the bridge is more than a passageway. It is a place where the past lingers and the boundary between the natural and the supernatural feels tenuous. Many of the bridge's hauntings begin with the sudden appearance of icy winds. Pedestrians walking along the bridge's narrow sidewalks often describe gusts that sweep across the deck without warning, chilling the skin and raising the hairs on the back of the neck. These winds appear localized, sometimes brushing against a single individual, while the rest of the walkway remains calm. Drivers have recounted feeling a sudden drop in temperature inside their vehicles when crossing the bridge, accompanied by a sense of unease or the impression that something unseen is present nearby. These chilling drafts often come with a weighty stillness, a momentary pause in the usual ambient sounds of the river and traffic, as if the bridge itself has become aware of the visitor. Faint voices are another hallmark of the Siasala River Bridge's haunted reputation. Witnesses report hearing soft murmurs, distant calls, or fragmented conversations carried by the river breeze. Some describe the voices as belonging to fishermen or travelers from decades past, whispering names, offering warnings, or repeating simple phrases. These auditory phenomena often occur near the water below the bridge, where the natural acoustics amplify and distort sound, making it difficult to pinpoint the source. Pedestrians crossing the bridge have reported pausing mid-step, straining to hear the whispers, only to find the deck empty and silent. The voices are described as mournful or urgent, leaving a lingering sense that someone or something is trying to communicate across the veil of time. Shadows moving against the light are another common experience reported at Siasala River Bridge. Observers have seen indistinct forms drifting along the arches, appearing in peripheral vision or passing silently across the deck. These figures are rarely well defined, human-like in shape but lacking discernible features, and they vanish when approached. Some witnesses describe shadowy silhouettes pacing the edges of the bridge as if keeping watch over those who cross. Photographers capturing long exposure images of the bridge at dawn or dusk have sometimes captured unexpected blurs or shapes along the deck or arches, adding to the legend that the bridge is inhabited by lingering presences. These shadows, combined with sudden winds and whispered voices, create an atmosphere that feels both alive and uncanny, a place where natural beauty and supernatural tension coexist. Historical context adds another layer to the bridge's haunted lore. Constructed in 1936 as part of the Coastal Highway 101 project, the bridge was built in an era when construction was dangerous and worker fatalities were not uncommon. Tales of accidents during construction persist in local folklore, and some suggest that the spirits of those lost remain tied to the structure. Over the years, travelers have also encountered accidents on the bridge, slips, falls, and vehicle collisions that contribute to its reputation as a site of lingering unrest. Some theorists suggest that the experiences reported by visitors are echoes of these past events, a residual energy that manifests as wind, sound, or shadow. Others believe that the spirits themselves remain active, occasionally making their presence known to those crossing the bridge. The bridge's architecture and surroundings amplify the haunting experiences. Its Art Deco arches and piers create long, dramatic shadows, while the river below and the surrounding marshlands enhance the effects of wind and sound. The open design of the bridge allows gusts to funnel unpredictably, often intensifying the chill felt by pedestrians. The river's movement and the distant ocean waves contribute to ambient sounds that sometimes appear as footsteps, whispers, or faint laughter. Together, these elements create a sensory environment where natural and unexplained phenomena blend, heightening the impression that the bridge is more than a simple structure. Visitors often report a profound feeling of being watched while crossing the bridge. Whether on foot or in vehicles, there is a recurring sense that unseen eyes follow every step, that shadows linger at the edges of vision, and that the air itself carries a presence. Some pedestrians have reported feeling brushes against their arms or shoulders, while others describe a momentary pressure in the chest or the sensation of being guided or restrained by something invisible. These experiences, though subjective, are consistent enough across accounts to contribute to the bridge's eerie reputation. Despite its reputation for ghostly activity, Siasla River Bridge remains a celebrated landmark. Tourists, photographers, and locals continue to cross it daily, drawn by its beauty, history, and coastal views. Yet for those attuned to its lore, each crossing is an encounter with more than just steel and concrete. Icy winds, whispered voices, and shadowy forms serve as subtle reminders that some places retain the presence of the past, where the memory of those who came before lingers in ways both tangible and unseen. The Coos Bay Bridge in Coos Bay, Oregon, stretches elegantly over the waters of the bay, connecting the mainland to the communities along the estuary. Built to carry Highway 101 traffic safely across the wide expanse of water, the bridge has long been admired for its engineering and scenic views. During the day, visitors can see fishing boats moving through the waters below, seabirds circling overhead, and the sun reflecting off the calm bay. By night, the bridge takes on a more mysterious quality. Its steel supports silhouetted against the dark waters and the distant lights of the shoreline. Yet beneath its practical and aesthetic appeal lies a reputation for the unexplained. The Coos Bay Bridge is known for cold gusts that seem to appear from nowhere, phantom figures glimpsed along the railings, and strange noises that echo across the bay, creating an atmosphere of unease for those who cross it. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves sudden cold gusts. Pedestrians walking the bridge at night often speak of icy winds sweeping across the deck, chilling them to the bone even on mild evenings. These gusts are highly localized, sometimes brushing against a single person while leaving others untouched. Drivers have recounted a sudden drop in temperature within their vehicles while crossing the bridge, an inexplicable chill that seems to follow them along the span. Many describe the feeling as more than just cold. It carries a weight, a presence, as if something unseen is moving alongside them, observing every step they take. These cold gusts are often accompanied by a profound silence, the usual sounds of traffic, water, and wind momentarily muted, leaving an eerie stillness that amplifies the sensation of the supernatural. Phantom figures are another hallmark of the Coos Bay Bridge. Witnesses have reported seeing shadowy forms peering from the railings, human-like shapes that vanish when approached. Pedestrians often catch glimpses of these figures in the corner of their visions, standing still, pacing slowly, or gazing down at the waters below. Some describe the silhouettes as fishermen, hunched and wearing old-fashioned clothing, while others report seeing travelers or sailors, as if the spirits of those lost to the bay remain tied to the bridge. Photographers and late-night commuters have occasionally captured fleeting shapes in long-exposure images, only to find them absent when reviewing the photos. These spectral figures contribute to the impression that the bridge is more than a passageway. It is a space where the memories of past tragedies linger, visible only to those who are attentive or brave enough to notice. Unexplained noises also add to the haunting reputation of the Coos Bay Bridge. Witnesses describe soft murmurs carried by the wind, the distant clanging of what sounds like chains, and echoes of footsteps along the deck long after pedestrians have passed. Some have reported hearing faint cries or calls, as though someone is reaching out from the water below. Drivers have recounted sudden tapping or knocking sounds against the sides of their vehicles, with no apparent source, and even the sounds of water splashing that cannot be accounted for by tides or passing boats. These auditory experiences often coincide with the appearance of cold gusts or shadows, creating a multi-sensory haunting that can leave visitors feeling both anxious and exhilarated. Historical context helps explain some of the bridge's supernatural lore. The Coos Bay area has a long history of maritime activity, and over the decades, accidents and drownings have occurred in the waters beneath the bridge. Construction and maintenance of the bridge itself involved significant risks, and records indicate that workers occasionally perished during its building. Over the years, locals have shared stories of fishermen who vanished in the bay, travelers who disappeared, and drivers who reported inexplicable chills or apparitions while crossing. Some theorists suggest that these tragedies left residual energy, manifesting as the cold gusts, shadowy figures, and eerie sounds reported by witnesses. Others believe that the spirits of those lost continue to linger, silently watching or retracing steps from decades past. The bridge's design and environment amplify these experiences. Its steel supports and arches cast long shadows across the deck and water, creating spaces where light and dark interact in unsettling ways. The open structure allows the wind to funnel unpredictably, intensifying natural gusts and sometimes carrying sounds from far below. Reflections on the water, combined with the bridge's illumination at night, produce flickers and illusions that appear almost human. All of these factors contribute to the bridge's haunted atmosphere, blending the tangible with the intangible and enhancing the perception that it is alive with unseen presences. Many visitors report a sense of being observed while on the Coos Bay Bridge. Pedestrians speak of feeling eyes on their backs, a brush against an unseen shoulder, or a subtle pressure that seems to follow them across the deck. Some have hurried their pace, convinced they are being guided or restrained by forces beyond explanation. Drivers, too, have recounted the sensation of an invisible presence traveling alongside them, shadowing their vehicle as they cross. These experiences, though subjective, are consistent enough across reports to establish a pattern of eerie encounters. Despite its haunted reputation, the Coos Bay Bridge remains a vital and celebrated structure. Tourists, locals, and commuters cross it daily, drawn by the scenic views, historical significance, and engineering prowess. Yet for those aware of its stories, every crossing by foot, bicycle, or car carries an undercurrent of anticipation. Cold gusts, whispered voices, and shadowy forms serve as subtle reminders that some places retain the presence of the past, a place where tragedy and memory linger long after the events themselves. The Alsea Bay Bridge in Walport, Oregon, stretches gracefully over the waters of the Alsea Bay, connecting coastal communities while offering breathtaking views of the Pacific Northwest. By day, the bridge is admired for its sweeping lines, steel supports, and the serene expanse of water below. Fishermen, in small boats, drift along the bay, seabirds wheel overhead, and the sun casts sparkling reflections on the water's surface. Yet as evening falls, the Alsea Bay Bridge transforms into a place steeped in mystery. Visitors have long reported sudden cold breezes, shadowy figures near the support beams, and fleeting silhouettes along the walkway. These experiences have earned the bridge a reputation as one of the more haunted sites along the Oregon coast, a place where the past seems to linger alongside the present. One of the most frequently cited phenomena is the sudden cold breeze that strikes without warning. Pedestrians walking the bridge have described icy gusts that brush across their bodies even on calm, clear nights. Drivers have noted windows fogging inexplicably and a drop in temperature inside vehicles as they traverse the span. These chilling winds often come in isolated bursts, affecting one person or a small section of the bridge while leaving the rest seemingly untouched. The sensation is more than just physical. It carries an oppressive weight, an awareness that something unseen is present. Many witnesses speak of a momentary pause in the usual sounds of the bay and traffic, as if the environment itself holds its breath before the wind passes, intensifying the unnerving experience. Shadowy figures are another common occurrence at the Alcea Bay Bridge. These figures often vanish when approached, leaving no trace except for the lingering chill and the impression of being watched. Some pedestrians describe the shapes as travelers from another time, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, as though they have been trapped on the bridge for decades. Others report seeing fleeting glimpses of figures that seem to glide rather than walk, moving with a silent determination that defies natural movement. Photographers have occasionally captured indistinct blurs or unexpected shadows in long exposure images, adding to the bridge's lore. Whispers and murmurs have also been reported along the bridge, carried faintly by the wind. Some describe the voices as distant conversations, while others hear urgent calls or even names being repeated. These sounds often seem to come from the water or the steel supports themselves, and despite attempts to locate the source, no one can pinpoint the origin. Pedestrians have paused mid-step, listening intently, only to find themselves alone and the bridge silent once more. The combination of cold gusts, shadowy figures, and whispered voices creates a multi-sensory experience that many describe as profoundly unsettling. Historical context helps explain some of the bridge's eerie reputation. The Alcea Bay Bridge has been an essential part of the coastal highway system for decades, and its location over treacherous waters has led to accidents, both during construction and afterward. Tales of lost travelers, boaters, and workers who perished near or beneath the bridge have persisted in local folklore. Some theorists believe the ghosts are residual energy, echoes of past tragedies replaying along the walkway. Others maintain that the spirits are active, choosing to remain near the site of their loss, appearing to travelers who pass too close. Stories of vanished pedestrians and sudden gusts coincide with these tragedies, creating a consistent pattern of unexplained phenomena. The architecture of the bridge amplifies these experiences. The steel supports create long shadows that stretch across the deck and water, especially at dusk and nighttime. The open design allows the wind to channel unpredictably, sometimes intensifying the natural chill. The river below and the nearby bay amplify ambient sounds, making subtle noises like a footstep or a low murmur carry further than expected. Reflections of streetlights on the water add another layer of optical illusion, creating shapes and movements that appear almost human. All of these elements converge to make the Alcea Bay Bridge a place where natural beauty and eerie occurrences coexist, leaving visitors with an impression that the bridge is alive in ways beyond simple mechanics. A recurring sensation reported by visitors is the feeling of being observed. Pedestrians often describe a sense of unseen eyes tracking their movements, a brush of invisible fingers along their shoulders, or a weight in the air that presses subtly against them. Drivers have spoken of fleeting glimpses of figures standing along the edge as they pass, though, when they look again, nothing remains. These experiences, though subjective, have been reported by enough individuals to form a consistent narrative. The bridge is a location where the presence of others, unseen yet keenly felt, lingers. Despite its haunted reputation, the Alcea Bay Bridge remains a vital and admired structure. Locals, commuters, and tourists cross it daily, drawn by its scenic views, engineering significance, and coastal charm. Yet for those aware of its stories, every crossing carries an added dimension, a mix of beauty, history, and the possibility of the supernatural. Cold gusts, whispers, and fleeting shadows remind travelers that some places retain the memory of the past, where the line between the living and the unseen feels thin. The Rogue River Bridge in Gold Beach, Oregon, stretches gracefully over the waters of the Rogue River, connecting communities along the rugged southern Oregon coastline. By day, it is admired for its sweeping views, the sparkling river below, and the lush forests that frame the banks. Kayakers and fishermen drift along the river, the cries of birds echoing through the canyon, and sunlight dances across the steel and concrete of the bridge. But as night falls, the bridge transforms from a picturesque crossing to a location steeped in mystery and eerie tales. Travelers and locals alike have reported sudden icy winds, whispers that follow them along the walkway, and shadowy forms moving across the deck. Some even claim to have seen figures climbing the rails, vanishing into the mist that frequently rolls over the river, leaving a chilling sense of the unexplained. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is sudden gusts of icy wind. Pedestrians crossing the bridge at night often speak of an abrupt chill that seems to come from nowhere. These gusts are not merely cold air, they feel almost deliberate, brushing across the body with a weight that causes goosebumps and a sense of unease. Drivers have also described their vehicles' interiors suddenly dropping in temperature without any logical cause, as if the chill itself is aware of their presence. The wind often coincides with the appearance of other phenomena, such as the faint sound of whispers or the fleeting shapes of shadowy figures, making the bridge feel alive in a way that transcends natural explanation. Witnesses report a peculiar quiet during these gusts, as if the sounds of the river, forest, and distant traffic are momentarily muted, leaving only the unsettling sensation of being watched. Shadowy figures are another frequent occurrence on the Rogue River Bridge. Many travelers have described seeing humanoid silhouettes pacing along the deck, standing motionless near the railing, or even climbing the supports before disappearing into the fog. These forms are fleeting, often vanishing when approached or illuminated by headlights. Some witnesses describe them as cloaked or indistinct, almost like figures from another time, while others perceive more defined shapes resembling travelers or workers from decades past. Pedestrians have reported glimpsing these figures out of the corner of their eyes, only to have them vanish when they turn to look directly. Photographs taken at night sometimes reveal blurred shapes or unnatural shadows, further fueling the bridge's haunted reputation. Accompanying the gusts and shadows are whispers that seem to follow travelers across the bridge. Some describe hearing their names called softly, while others report distant murmurs that resemble conversations, though no one is visible nearby. These sounds often appear to come from the fog itself or the water below, carried by the shifting wind. Pedestrians frequently pause, straining to locate the source, only to find themselves alone in the darkness, with the bridge silent once more. Drivers have also recounted hearing faint whispers or indistinct voices through their vehicle windows, even when the road behind them is empty. The combination of sudden cold, whispers, and shadowy figures creates a multi-sensory haunting that leaves those who cross the bridge feeling both anxious and fascinated. The history of the Rogue River area contributes to the eerie atmosphere. The Rogue River has long been a site of fishing, logging, and transportation, and over the years, accidents and drownings have occurred near the bridge. Locals tell stories of travelers lost in the fog, workers who perished during construction or maintenance, and people swept into the river during storms. Many believe that these past tragedies have left lingering energy, with the bridge serving as a conduit between the present and the restless spirits of those who never left. Some theorists suggest that these ghosts are residual, replaying moments of their lives, while others insist the spirits are active, interacting subtly with those who traverse the bridge. The bridge's architecture amplifies these experiences. The steel framework casts long, shifting shadows across the deck, particularly under moonlight or streetlights. Its open design allows the wind to channel unpredictably, intensifying natural gusts into sudden, chilling blasts. Fog rolling up from the river often distorts perception, making distant objects appear closer or giving the impression of movement where none exists. Reflections on the wet surface of the bridge create optical illusions, turning ordinary shapes into humanoid forms that seem to vanish when approached. All these elements combine to make the Rogue River Bridge a place where natural and supernatural phenomena appear intertwined. Many visitors describe a feeling of being observed while on the bridge. Pedestrians speak of subtle pressure in the air, fleeting touches on their shoulders, or the sensation that unseen eyes follow them as they cross. Drivers occasionally report a sensation of a shadow moving alongside their vehicles, only to glance and see nothing. These experiences, consistent across multiple accounts, create a sense that the bridge is more than just steel and concrete. It is a living archive of past events, with the memories of those who suffered lingering invisibly. Despite its chilling reputation, the Rogue River Bridge remains a vital and scenic crossing. Tourists, fishermen, and locals pass over it daily, drawn by its architectural beauty and the stunning vistas of the Rogue River and surrounding forests. Yet for those aware of its haunted lore, each crossing carries a subtle tension. Cold gusts, whispers, and fleeting figures serve as reminders that the bridge retains the imprint of tragedy. That some places hold on to the memory of the past more tightly than others. The Columbia River Highway in Oregon is a marvel of early 20th century engineering, stretching along the cliffs and forests of the Columbia River Gorge. Its series of historic bridges, each unique in design, connect winding roads, waterfalls, and breathtaking vistas, offering travelers not only a scenic journey but a glimpse into the state's past. By day, the bridges are celebrated for their architectural beauty, arched spans of concrete and steel rising over the river, framed by towering cliffs and cascading waterfalls. Yet as night falls, these bridges are said to take on a far more mysterious character. Travelers and locals alike have reported cold gusts, phantom footsteps, fleeting shadows, and an unsettling sensation of being watched. Many believe the spirits of early pioneers, builders, and travelers continue to wander the bridge paths, their presence lingering decades after their deaths. One of the most commonly reported phenomena along these historic bridges is the sudden and unexplained cold gusts. Pedestrians crossing at night have described sharp, icy breezes that seem to come from nowhere, passing directly through their bodies and leaving goosebumps in their wake. These gusts often appear localized, affecting only a portion of the bridge, or striking at a single person while others nearby remain unaffected. Drivers have reported windows fogging or their vehicles' interiors feeling suddenly frigid without any mechanical reason. Witnesses describe the chill as more than a simple drop in temperature. It carries with it an oppressive weight, a subtle awareness of being observed, as if something unseen is passing close by. Often, these gusts coincide with other oddities: the faint echo of footsteps, the whisper of voices, or the appearance of shadowy figures along the span. Phantom footsteps are another recurring element of these haunted bridges. Many travelers report hearing the distinct sound of shoes striking the wooden or concrete surfaces of the bridge deck, though no one else is present. The steps sometimes follow the visitor, starting at a distance and growing closer, only to fade mysteriously without ever revealing their source. Some pedestrians have paused mid-stride, listening to footsteps that circle and recede as if moving around them, creating the impression that someone or something is walking alongside them invisibly. Drivers have occasionally reported hearing footsteps on the roof or hood of their vehicles while crossing, even though no pedestrian is nearby. These disembodied sounds add a rhythm of suspense, a ghostly accompaniment to an otherwise ordinary crossing. Shadows and fleeting figures are frequently observed along the Columbia River Highway bridges. Travelers speak of dark silhouettes appearing at the edges of the bridge, moving just out of clear view and vanishing when approached or illuminated by headlights. Some describe seeing people dressed in pioneer clothing or early 20th century work attire, as though frozen in the era when the bridges were first constructed. The figures often appear to walk along the deck, lean against the railings, or even climb portions of the structure, only to dissolve into mist or darkness moments later. These visual anomalies are sometimes captured in photographs as blurs or faint shapes, further fueling the reputation of the highway as a corridor of the supernatural. Whispers and faint voices are another commonly reported phenomenon. Travelers have heard voices carried on the wind, murmurs that seem to come from the bridge's structure itself or the river below. Some report names being softly called, while others hear indistinct conversations or urgent calls. Despite efforts to locate the source, no one is ever found nearby. Pedestrians frequently describe a sudden hush in the environment as these sounds appear, a temporary suspension of natural noises that intensifies the eerie experience. Drivers have also noted hearing faint whispers or low voices while alone on the road at night, as if the river and the cliffs themselves are speaking to those who pass. Historical context helps explain some of these haunting tales. The Columbia River Highway was one of the first scenic highways in the United States, constructed in the early 1900s with incredible effort and skill. Many workers lost their lives during its construction, falling from cliffs, drowning in the river, or succumbing to accidents in the rugged terrain. Additionally, the region was historically traversed by pioneers and travelers facing harsh conditions, some of whom met tragic ends along the route. It is believed by some that these spirits linger, tied to the places where they suffered or labored, walking the bridges endlessly, replaying moments of their lives. The architecture and environment of the bridges amplify the experience of the supernatural. Arched spans cast long shadows over the river, especially under moonlight or streetlights. The open construction allows the wind to funnel unpredictably, intensifying gusts into chilling blasts. Reflections of light on the water create optical illusions, turning ordinary shadows into human-like forms that appear to move with purpose. Fog that drifts through the gorge distorts perception, making shapes appear closer or farther than they truly are. The combination of structural design and natural elements results in an environment ripe for both ghostly sightings and unexplained sensations. Many visitors also report the unsettling feeling of being watched. Pedestrians describe a pressure in the air, fleeting touches on shoulders, or the sense that unseen eyes track their movement across the bridge. Drivers have shared stories of fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures along the roadside, appearing to pace the vehicle, only to vanish when looked at directly. These sensations create a strong impression that the bridges are more than functional structures. They are spaces where memory, history, and unseen presences converge. Despite their haunted reputation, the Columbia River Highway bridges remain vital and admired landmarks. Travelers cross them daily, drawn by the scenic vistas, architectural marvels, and the rich history embedded in the gorge. Yet for those aware of the bridge's spectral tales, each crossing carries a subtle unease. Cold gusts, phantom footsteps, fleeting shadows, and whispers all serve as reminders that the highway is a place where the past lingers, where the spirits of pioneers and workers may continue to wander, eternally traversing the paths they once traveled in life. The Sandy River Bridge in Troutdale, Oregon, stretches over the rushing waters of the Sandy River, connecting forested trails and winding roads. By day, it is admired for its rustic charm and the way sunlight reflects off the river below. But as darkness falls, the bridge takes on an unnerving character, one steeped in history and eerie tales. Visitors have long reported sudden chills that seem to cut through clothing, lights flickering inexplicably along the walkway, and shadowy figures moving across the deck. Some even claim to feel ghostly hands brushing against their shoulders, leaving an unsettling awareness of a presence that seems both near and impossible to see. Many of the reports center on sudden, inexplicable cold. Pedestrians crossing the bridge at night frequently describe gusts that chill them to the bone, despite calm weather and no wind. These chills are not ordinary. They often feel like a heavy presence, rushing across the skin or enveloping the body in a momentary icy grip. Drivers have reported their vehicles' interiors dropping suddenly in temperature while passing over the bridge, windows fogging inexplicably. Locals suggest that these gusts are tied to the lingering energy of past accidents along the bridge, tragedies that left more than memories, but impressions etched into the very structure itself. Shadowy figures are a frequent sight on the Sandy River Bridge. Witnesses describe fleeting silhouettes pacing along the walkway, pausing near the railings, or disappearing into the darkness when approached. These forms vary from indistinct shadows to more defined shapes, resembling people who once traveled the bridge. Some pedestrians have reported seeing figures in clothing reminiscent of earlier decades, as if ghosts of the past are walking the bridge as they did in life. Drivers at night occasionally spot shadows crossing the lanes or lingering near the edges, only to vanish when headlights illuminate the area. These sightings create a strong impression that the bridge is alive with unseen observers. Another recurring phenomenon is the sensation of being touched. Visitors have reported feeling invisible hands brush their shoulders, tug at sleeves, or even lightly grasp their arms as they cross. These touches are brief and gentle, but enough to induce panic, leaving witnesses with a sense of vulnerability and the impression that something unseen is following them. Some describe the feeling as protective, while others experience a sense of threat or urgency. Pedestrians often pause mid-crossing, scanning the shadows for the source, yet nothing is ever visible. The combination of tactile sensation and visual phenomena reinforces the bridge's reputation as a place where the living and unseen intersect. Flickering lights add another layer to the haunting. Streetlights and nearby fixtures often behave unpredictably, casting uneven illumination along the bridge's deck. Visitors have reported bulbs flickering, going out entirely, or shining brighter for no reason, creating eerie patterns of shadow and light. Some say these flickers coincide with other strange events, such as footsteps, whispers, or fleeting figures. The play of illumination and darkness enhances the sense of unreality, making the bridge feel like a threshold between the natural and supernatural. The history of the Sandy River Bridge provides context for these ghostly occurrences. The river and surrounding area have long been sites of travel, logging, and transport, and the bridge itself has witnessed accidents over the decades. Travelers lost their footing, vehicles plunged into the river, and pedestrians met untimely ends along its walkways. Some believe that the spirits of those who perished remain tethered to the location of their final moments. Others suggest that the bridge acts as a repository for residual energy, replaying events in fleeting glimpses and sensations that modern witnesses interpret as paranormal. The architecture of the bridge contributes to the haunting experiences. Its wooden planks and steel framework cast long, shifting shadows, particularly under moonlight or flickering lights. The open design allows sudden gusts to funnel across the deck unpredictably, intensifying chills and amplifying sounds. Fog rising from the river distorts perception, making shapes appear closer or more animated than they are. Reflections in the water beneath create illusions of movement, sometimes mirroring shadows that seem to walk in parallel with pedestrians. The combination of structural elements and environmental factors makes the bridge a natural stage for eerie sightings and ghostly experiences. Whispers and subtle sounds are also commonly reported. Pedestrians have described hearing indistinct voices, footsteps echoing in empty spaces, or the soft murmur of conversations carried by the wind. These sounds often appear to follow the listener, fading as they try to locate the source. Drivers crossing the bridge at night occasionally hear faint knocks, whispers, or rustling, despite the absence of other vehicles or people. These auditory phenomena add another layer of tension, creating a multi-sensory experience that blurs the line between natural and supernatural. Despite its haunted reputation, the Sandy River Bridge remains a functional and picturesque crossing. Locals and tourists use it daily, drawn by the scenic views of the river and the surrounding forests. Yet for those aware of its spectral tales, each crossing carries an undercurrent of unease. Cold gusts, flickering lights, phantom footsteps, shadowy forms, and ghostly touches remind travelers that the bridge is more than a structural passage. It's a place where history, tragedy, and the unexplained converge. The Deschutes River Bridge in Bend, Oregon, is celebrated for its sweeping views of the river below, framed by rugged cliffs and pine-studded hillsides. By day, the bridge is a tranquil passage for travelers and sightseers, the water sparkling beneath its arches and the surrounding landscape offering a serene escape. Yet as twilight descends, the bridge transforms, taking on a spectral quality that has long captured the attention of locals and visitors alike. Accounts of icy drafts, moving shadows, phantom figures, and whispered voices have given the bridge a reputation for being haunted, as if the river and its crossing carry memories of those long gone. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is sudden, inexplicable cold. Pedestrians crossing the bridge at dusk or night often describe gusts that chill them to the bone, even when the air is otherwise calm. These drafts sometimes seem concentrated, brushing against an individual's body without affecting others nearby. Drivers have also reported interiors of their vehicles dropping in temperature as they pass over, fog forming on the windshield, with no apparent cause. Witnesses often describe the chill as more than physical. It carries an almost tangible presence, a sensation of being observed by something unseen, and leaves a lingering unease long after crossing. Shadows are another common feature of the Deschutes River Bridge hauntings. Witnesses describe fleeting, dark shapes gliding along the walkways or moving just beyond the guardrails. These forms vary from simple silhouettes to more defined human-like figures, sometimes appearing to lean over the rails and gaze at the water below. Pedestrians have reported seeing shapes that seem to follow their movements, vanish when approached, or appear in peripheral vision only to disappear when looked at directly. Drivers and cyclists have occasionally noticed shadows darting across the roadway, creating a sudden sense of presence where none should exist. These visual anomalies enhance the eerie atmosphere, transforming the otherwise scenic bridge into a place where the past seems to intersect with the present. Phantom figures are often described in more specific detail. Witnesses speak of people in early 20th century clothing, appearing as though they have stepped out of a different era. Some are said to peer over the railings, silently observing the river below, while others seem to pace along the deck as if replaying moments long past. These figures are rarely seen clearly. They are usually glimpsed at the edge of vision, their forms dissolving when approached. Yet the impression they leave is vivid, a sense of another presence inhabiting the same space as the living, walking the bridge in a rhythm that no longer belongs to this time. Whispers and faint voices are another element of the bridge's spectral reputation. Pedestrians frequently report hearing their names called softly, the echo of indistinct conversations or murmurs that seem to drift across the river. Some describe voices rising from the water itself, carried on the wind, or from the structure of the bridge. Drivers have occasionally reported hearing faint murmurs or low tones while alone, as if the river and the bridge are speaking directly to them. The auditory experiences often coincide with visual phenomena, intensifying the sensation of being surrounded by unseen watchers. Historical context gives weight to these reports. The Deschutes River has long been a site of travel, logging, and early settlement, and the bridge itself has witnessed accidents and tragedies over the years. Workers fell during construction, travelers lost footing, and vehicles plunged into the river. Some believe that the spirits of those who met untimely ends linger along the bridge and river, tethered to the locations where their lives were abruptly interrupted. Others suggest that the bridge and its surroundings act as a repository for residual energy, replaying tragic or significant moments to those who cross. Environmental factors amplify the haunting. The bridge's open design allows gusts to funnel unpredictably, intensifying the sensation of sudden cold. Moonlight and artificial lights create shifting shadows across the deck, reflecting on the water below to produce the illusion of movement. Mist rising from the river can obscure visibility, making silhouettes appear closer or more animated than they are. The natural acoustics of the gorge carry faint sounds and whispers, giving them an otherworldly resonance that seems to emanate from the river itself. These combined elements of structure and environment create an ideal stage for ghostly sightings and sensations. Witnesses also report the unsettling feeling of being watched. Pedestrians describe a weight in the air, fleeting touches, or the impression of unseen eyes tracking their movements. Drivers occasionally glimpse shadowy forms pacing their vehicle along the deck, disappearing when focused on directly. These experiences reinforce the perception that the Deschutes River Bridge is more than a functional structure. It is a liminal space where history and the supernatural converge. Despite its haunted reputation, the Deschutes River Bridge remains a vital and admired crossing. Travelers continue to use it for commuting, sightseeing, and recreational purposes, drawn by its beauty and the views it offers of the river and surrounding gorge. Yet for those aware of its ghostly tales, each crossing carries a subtle tension, a heightened awareness of the air, shadows, and unseen presence. Sudden chills, flickering light, whispering voices, and fleeting figures all serve as reminders that the bridge retains echoes of the past, and perhaps even the spirits of those who walked or fell there long ago. The McKenzie River Bridge in Eugene, Oregon, spans the tranquil waters of the McKenzie River, surrounded by dense forests and the gentle slopes of the Willamette Valley. By day, it is admired for its rustic charm, the reflection of the surrounding trees shimmering on the river below, and the sense of connection it provides to the natural beauty of the region. Yet, as dusk falls, the bridge takes on a different character, one that has given rise to numerous tales of ghostly encounters. Travelers crossing the bridge after sunset often speak of sudden cold gusts, shadows that seem to move with a life of their own, and faint voices echoing from the river, creating an atmosphere thick with unease. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at the Mackenzie River Bridge is the sudden appearance of cold air. Pedestrians and drivers alike describe gusts that chilled to the bone, sweeping across the bridge in the absence of wind. These drafts often seem to follow individuals, brushing against their bodies with a weight that is more than mere temperature change. Some report the interior of their vehicles dropping inexplicably in temperature, windows fogging despite clear conditions, leaving an eerie sensation that something unseen is present. Locals attribute these cold spots to the lingering energy of past tragedies, accidents involving travelers, and loggers whose lives ended abruptly along the river or on the bridge. Shadows are another hallmark of the Mackenzie River Bridge hauntings. Witnesses have described fleeting, dark shapes moving along the walkway or just beyond the guardrails. These forms range from indistinct blurs to vaguely human silhouettes, occasionally appearing to pause at the edge of the bridge, peering into the water below. Pedestrians often notice that the shadows seem to move in tandem with them or appear at the periphery of vision, vanishing when they attempt to look directly. Drivers have also reported seeing figures darting across the roadway, only to vanish when illuminated by headlights, reinforcing the sense that the bridge is watched by entities from another time. Phantom figures are frequently mentioned in witness accounts. Some describe men in work clothes reminiscent of early logging days, pacing along the bridge as if caught in a moment long past. Others report the appearance of travelers in period attire, leaning over the railings or walking with an almost deliberate cadence. These apparitions are rarely fully visible. They are glimpsed in fleeting moments, leaving behind a lingering impression of lives once present on the bridge. Pedestrians have reported a sense of being followed, as if the figures continue along the bridge in silent observation, replaying routines from decades ago. Auditory phenomena add another layer of unease. Faint voices, whispers, or the soft murmur of conversations are often reported by those crossing the bridge. Some describe hearing their names called from the river or the surrounding forest, voices that rise and fade with no discernible source. Drivers report the occasional sound of footsteps echoing along the deck, or the faint creak of wooden planks when no one else is present. These sounds, often accompanied by flickering lights or moving shadows, create a multi-sensory experience that blurs the line between reality and the supernatural. The history of the Mackenzie River Bridge provides context for these strange occurrences. The area has long been associated with logging, transportation, and travel, and the bridge itself has seen its share of accidents. Loggers working along the river sometimes lost their footing. Travelers fell from the walkway, and vehicles occasionally plunged into the river. Local lore suggests that the spirits of those who perished remain tied to the bridge and its surroundings, their energy replaying fragments of their lives or deaths. Some theorists believe the bridge acts as a vessel for residual energy, capturing moments of high emotion and tragedy that can manifest to the living in subtle, eerie ways. Environmental conditions amplify the haunting experiences. The open design of the bridge allows gusts to funnel unpredictably across the deck, intensifying the sensation of sudden cold. Moonlight and artificial lights create shifting shadows on the walkway and surrounding water, making shapes appear more animated than they are. Mist rising from the river at dusk distorts perception, allowing fleeting figures to seem closer or more tangible than reality permits. The natural acoustics of the river gorge carry sounds across the water with an eerie resonance, making whispers or footsteps seem as if they originate from directly below or behind the observer. Witnesses often describe the unsettling feeling of being watched while on the bridge. Pedestrians have reported fleeting touches, brushes against clothing, or the sensation of a presence lingering just behind them. Drivers occasionally glimpse shadowy figures pacing alongside or on the bridge itself, vanishing the moment they are focused on directly. These sensations reinforce the idea that the Mackenzie River Bridge is more than a simple crossing. It is a place where the past and present converge, and where the line between the living and the unseen is perilously thin. Despite its eerie reputation, the Mackenzie River Bridge remains a functioning and admired structure. Locals continue to use it daily, and visitors are drawn by the scenic views of the river and surrounding forest. Yet, for those aware of its spectral history, every crossing carries a heightened awareness, a tension that grows with the lengthening shadows of dusk. Cold gusts, flickering lights, whispered voices, and shadowy figures serve as reminders that the bridge retains echoes of past lives and tragedies, silently observing all who pass. The Hood River Bridge spans the Columbia River with a striking presence, linking the Oregon and Washington sides with its steel framework and sweeping lines. By day, it is a functional marvel, a vital connection for commuters, travelers, and freight. Framed by the surrounding Columbia River Gorge, where steep cliffs rise from the water and vineyards dot the hillsides. Yet as the sun dips toward the horizon and evening falls over the gorge, the bridge's familiar silhouette takes on an eerie character, and those crossing report experiences that suggest the presence of something unseen. One of the most frequently reported phenomena on the Hood River Bridge is sudden, icy gusts of wind. While the gorge is known for its breezes, witnesses insist that these chills have an unnatural quality. Pedestrians often describe air that seems to slice through layers of clothing, carrying a weight or presence that is distinctly otherworldly. Drivers have noted that their vehicles sometimes shake or tremble when these gusts pass. Even on nights when the wind should be calm, some visitors feel a brush against their arms or shoulders, as if unseen hands are moving along the bridge, guiding or warning them. Locals speak of these gusts as more than just weather, suggesting they are the lingering energy of past tragedies and accidents that occurred along the river and the bridge itself. Shadows are another hallmark of the Hood River Bridge's haunting. People crossing in the evening often describe shapes that appear along the deck, sometimes moving in ways that defy logic. These dark forms can glide sideways, stretch unnaturally long, or appear to vanish only to reappear moments later in a completely different location. Pedestrians report that these shadows seem to follow them, lingering at the periphery of vision, yet disappearing when confronted directly. Drivers have described fleeting figures on the roadway or along the guardrails, only to find the lanes empty when they slow to look. These shadowy presences create an unsettling feeling, a sense that the bridge itself is alive with the echoes of those who once walked or fell here. Spectral sightings often accompany these shadows. Witnesses speak of translucent figures, some in period clothing, moving deliberately across the bridge. Some appear to be travelers, their expressions focused as if on a destination that exists only in another time. Others resemble workers, perhaps tied to the construction or maintenance of the bridge in decades past, pacing the walkway or pausing to lean over the guardrails. Pedestrians and drivers alike have described the feeling of being watched by these apparitions, with a sense that the figures are fully aware of the living but remain confined to their spectral routines. Auditory phenomena add a chilling layer to the bridge's reputation. Travelers report faint whispers carried by the river breeze, often sounding like fragments of conversation or the calling of names. Some describe hearing footsteps echoing along the deck, soft creaks of steel and wood when no vehicles or pedestrians are present, and occasional metallic clangs that seem to come from the structure itself. Even when the bridge is deserted, these sounds persist, creating an atmosphere that is simultaneously tangible and ephemeral. Visitors have recounted the sensation of voices urging them onward or calling them to pause, only for the sound to vanish when they attempt to locate its source. The history of the Hood River Bridge provides context for these unsettling experiences. Over its years of service, the bridge has been witness to accidents, mishaps during construction and maintenance, and the everyday comings and goings of thousands of travelers. Some local lore suggests that spirits of those who perished remain tied to the bridge, their energy replaying moments of fear, desperation, or unfinished business. Residual energy, according to folklore enthusiasts, can manifest in subtle ways. Sudden chills, fleeting shadows, and whispers that seem to come from nowhere. Environmental conditions further amplify these paranormal reports. The open design of the bridge allows gusts to funnel unpredictably across the deck, intensifying the sensation of sudden cold. Lights, both from vehicles and the bridge itself, occasionally flicker in patterns that defy electrical explanation, enhancing the perception of spectral movement. Reflections from the river below can distort shapes, turning ordinary shadows into forms that seem alive. Mist rising from the water at twilight can obscure sightlines, making figures appear closer, larger, or more tangible than they truly are. The acoustics of the river gorge carry sounds far across the water, turning ordinary noises into voices or footsteps that seem otherworldly. Witnesses often describe an unsettling awareness of being observed while on the bridge. Pedestrians recount fleeting touches or the sensation of a presence brushing past, while drivers report seeing figures pacing along the bridge or disappearing into the shadows of the guardrails. These experiences reinforce the perception that the Hood River Bridge is more than a simple crossing. It becomes a liminal space where the present intersects with echoes of the past, where the living are momentarily joined by the spectral inhabitants who have lingered for decades. Despite its eerie reputation, the Hood River Bridge remains an active and admired part of the gorge. Commuters, tourists, and locals traverse it daily, often oblivious to the bridge's haunted reputation. Yet, for those attuned to the supernatural, each crossing is a heightened experience. Cold gusts, flickering lights, moving shadows, whispered voices, and fleeting figures all serve as reminders that some presences remain tethered to the bridge, replaying routines and revisiting moments long after their lives have ended. Sandy Creek Bridge stretches across a quiet portion of the Sandy River, connecting forested paths and rural roads with a simple yet sturdy design. By day, it is a serene spot, popular with hikers, cyclists, and travelers passing through the area. The bridge's wooden planks creak beneath footsteps, and the gentle murmur of the river below provides a soothing soundtrack to its surrounding. Yet as night falls, the atmosphere shifts, and those who cross after dusk often report experiences that suggest the presence of forces beyond the natural world. One of the most common reports at Sandy Creek Bridge involves sudden cold breezes. Witnesses describe gusts of icy air that seem to emerge without warning, chilling them through layers of clothing and leaving an uncomfortable weight in the atmosphere. Unlike ordinary wind, these gusts are often localized, sweeping across the bridge and then vanishing just as abruptly. Some pedestrians recount feeling these currents brush against their arms or shoulders as if invisible hands were passing through them, tugging lightly at their clothing or drawing attention to the bridge itself. These sensations leave an unsettling impression, creating a sense that the bridge is alive with unseen presences. Shadowy figures are another recurring phenomenon. Visitors frequently describe forms appearing along the guardrails, dark silhouettes that seem human but move in ways that defy logic. They glide silently across the planks, sometimes pacing the edges of the bridge, other times vanishing when approached. Hikers and drivers alike have noticed these figures out of the corner of their eyes, only for them to disappear when looked at directly. In some accounts, the shadows appear to follow those crossing the bridge, maintaining a presence that is both disconcerting and inexplicable. These apparitions are not limited to a single time of night. They have been observed during the twilight hours and well into the deep darkness, always adding an element of tension to the crossing. Auditory phenomena add another layer of eeriness. Footsteps are commonly reported, echoing along the bridge even when no other travelers are present. Some pedestrians describe hearing creaking and tapping from the planks as if someone were walking alongside them, though they remain completely alone. Whispers carried on the wind are also frequently noted, faint voices that sound like fragments of conversation or urgent calls, yet vanish when listeners try to focus on them. These sounds often seem to emerge from the river below or the shadows along the guardrails, giving the impression that the bridge is echoing with memories of past travelers. A number of visitors recount tactile experiences that defy explanation. Some feel gentle tugs on their clothing, as if invisible hands are attempting to guide them, warn them, or perhaps pull them toward the edges. Others report the sensation of being brushed or tapped lightly, creating a sense of unease and awareness of something unseen. These encounters are often fleeting, but they leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the belief that Sandy Creek Bridge is more than just a wooden crossing over a quiet river. The history of Sandy Creek Bridge helps contextualize these reports. Although it has primarily served local traffic and pedestrians, accidents and mishaps have occurred over its decades of use. Travelers recount stories of falls from the bridge, minor vehicle accidents, and even reports of those who disappeared while crossing at night. Folklore suggests that the spirits of some of these individuals remain tethered to the site, replaying moments of fear, uncertainty, or unfinished business. Some paranormal enthusiasts believe that the energy from these past events manifests in the gusts, shadows, and whispers that visitors experience today. Environmental conditions also enhance the bridge's eerie atmosphere. The river beneath often produces a mist in the evenings, which drifts across the planks and obscures vision. Combined with the dark shadows cast by nearby trees and the isolated location, this mist creates the perfect setting for apparitions to appear and for sounds to carry unnaturally. Lights from distant roads occasionally reflect off the water, creating moving shadows that play tricks on the eyes. Even the bridge's wooden construction contributes to it, with planks and beams that naturally creak and shift, but sometimes produce noises that seem deliberately timed to the presence of witnesses. Travelers frequently describe an unsettling sense of being watched while crossing the bridge, whether by shadows along the guardrails or figures that vanish when looked at directly. There is often a feeling that unseen eyes are tracking each movement. Some pedestrians report hesitating midway, feeling invisible forces tug at their jackets or brush against their arms, compelling them to continue or warning them away. Drivers have recounted similar experiences, noticing fleeting figures along the side of the bridge, only to find nothing when they slow to investigate. Despite its reputation, Sandy Creek Bridge remains a destination for hikers, adventurers, and curious travelers. Some seek the thrill of crossing a haunted site, while others simply follow familiar routes, unaware of the stories. Yet for those attuned to the paranormal, each crossing is a heightened experience. Cold gusts, flickering shadows, ghostly footsteps, and unseen touches all serve as reminders that the bridge is more than a simple structure. It is a place where past and present intermingle, where memories of accidents, fears, and lingering spirits coexist with the living. The bridge's haunting is subtle but persistent. Witnesses consistently report that the longer they remain, the more tangible the presence becomes. Shadows seem to linger, the whispers grow slightly clearer, and the gusts of cold air brush more insistently. Sandy Creek Bridge is not merely a passage over a river. It is a threshold between the everyday world and the unseen, a place where lingering spirits continue their routines, replaying moments of their lives for any who might witness them. Each visitor who crosses after dark becomes a part of the bridge's ongoing story, encountering the invisible forces that ensure its haunted legacy endures. The North Umpqua Bridge, spanning the rushing waters of the North Umpqua River near Roseburg, carries with it a chilling reputation. By day, the bridge seems unremarkable, a sturdy structure of timber and steel connecting winding forest roads. Its railings, worn smooth by decades of travelers, and its gently creaking planks give no hint of the spectral activity that has long been whispered about in local lore. Yet, those who cross after dusk often report experiences that are anything but ordinary. Encounters that suggest the bridge is haunted by travelers who never reach the other side. Many visitors describe sudden cold gusts that sweep across the deck without warning. These are no ordinary winds. They appear in isolated patches, chilling the skin and raising goosebumps even on warm nights. Pedestrians often feel as though the gusts pass through them, brushing shoulders or tugging lightly at coats. Some accounts suggest that these icy drafts are more than atmospheric anomalies. They seem almost purposeful, warning those who walk the bridge to turn back. Several travelers have reported an instinctive hesitation midway across, as though an unseen presence is urging them to reconsider their crossing. Shadows are another commonly reported phenomenon. Witnesses frequently describe fleeting dark figures gliding along the deck or appearing near the guardrails. These shapes often vanish when approached directly, leaving only a lingering sense of unease. Some pedestrians recount seeing figures pace slowly along the bridge, only for the movements to repeat when they glance away and back again. These apparitions are usually humanoid, but they lack detail, appearing as black silhouettes that move independently of natural light sources. Drivers have even reported glimpsing these shadows from their vehicles, causing sudden chills or a racing heartbeat as they pass. Auditory experiences add another layer to the bridge's eerie reputation. Many visitors report hearing phantom footsteps echoing across the planks, though no one else is present. Some describe faint voices carried by the wind, whispers that seem to issue warnings or faint calls to turn back. The sounds are subtle at first, like distant murmurs, but grow more distinct as travelers progress across the bridge. A few have claimed to hear urgent shouts, as though someone is calling out to prevent them from stepping too far. In some cases, the footsteps and whispers appear to follow the person, heightening the feeling of being pursued by invisible presences. Several pedestrians report tactile sensations that defy explanation. Cold brushes against the skin, fleeting touches on the arms, or light tugs at clothing are often mentioned. These encounters are brief but unmistakable, leaving a lingering impression that the bridge is not empty, that unseen hands are guiding or warning those who cross. Some witnesses describe an oppressive feeling, a weight of unseen eyes watching their every move, intensifying their awareness of the bridge's spectral inhabitants. The history of North Umpqua Bridge provides context for these hauntings. The area surrounding the river is known for treacherous roads, sudden weather changes, and dangerous terrain. Over the years, accidents have occurred on or near the bridge, some fatal. Local lore suggests that the spirits of travelers lost in these incidents remain tied to the bridge, trapped in the moment of their final crossing. These spirits are said to manifest as gusts, shadows, and whispers, replaying fragments of their lives or attempting to warn others away from repeating their fate. Environmental conditions further enhance the bridge's mysterious atmosphere. The river beneath often produces a light mist in the evenings, drifting across the planks and blending with the shadows. Trees lining the road cast long, twisting shadows that merge with the darker figures seen on the bridge. Reflections from nearby lights sometimes flicker across the deck, creating illusions of movement that confuse even the most skeptical observer. The bridge's wooden planks and steel supports naturally creak and groan with each step, but witnesses often report that these sounds occur at unexpected moments, perfectly timed, with the appearance of shadows or gusts, lending an otherworldly quality to the experience. Visitors frequently speak of the sensation of being watched, whether by shadows pacing the guardrails or by figures that vanish when looked at directly. There is a pervasive awareness of unseen eyes tracking every movement. Pedestrians recount mid-crossing hesitations, feeling as if invisible hands are guiding them or warning them to retreat. Drivers, too, have reported glimpsing brief apparitions along the bridge, with reflections or shadows that disappear the moment they attempt a closer inspection. This persistent sense of surveillance contributes to the bridge's reputation as a place where the living and the spectral intersect. Despite its chilling reputation, North Umpqua Bridge remains a destination for adventurous travelers and paranormal enthusiasts. Some seek the thrill of crossing a haunted site, while others follow routine routes unaware of its history. Yet, for those attuned to the paranormal, each crossing is an intense experience. Gusts of cold air, fleeting shadows, phantom footsteps, and unseen touches combine to create an atmosphere thick with tension and mystery. The bridge transforms from a simple river crossing into a threshold between the everyday world and the unseen, a place where past tragedies are replayed for any willing or unwitting observer. The hauntings of North Umpqua Bridge are subtle but persistent. Witnesses note that the longer they remain, the more tangible the presence becomes. Shadows seem to linger, whispers grow slightly clearer, and the gusts of wind become more insistent. The bridge is more than timber and steel. It is a living repository of memories, energy, and lingering spirits. Each traveler who crosses at night becomes part of its continuing story, encountering forces that ensure its spectral legacy endures. The Clackamas River Bridge, nestled near the town of Estacada, spans the winding waters of the Clackamas River, surrounded by dense forests and steep hillsides. By day, it presents itself as a simple, functional structure, its rails weathered and worn by decades of travelers and vehicles. Yet after dusk, the bridge transforms into a site of eerie encounters and inexplicable phenomena. Locals and visitors alike have long reported ghostly activity that seems to defy natural explanation. Fog often blankets the bridge, especially in the evenings, rolling in from the river and hugging the deck with a damp chill. In this atmosphere, shadows appear to move independently of any light source, fleeting figures gliding across the planks or pacing near the rails. Pedestrians have reported sudden glimpses of dark shapes just out of the corner of their eyes, only for them to vanish when looked at directly. Drivers passing over the bridge at night sometimes glimpse a fleeting figure along the shoulder, a silhouette that disappears the instant headlights focus on it. These shadows are described as vaguely human in shape, but their movement and behavior suggest a presence that is not entirely of this world. Sudden cold spots are a common experience on the Clackamas River Bridge. Even on mild nights, travelers speak of chilling gusts that pass through the deck, seeping through clothing and chilling the skin to the bone. These icy drafts often appear in isolated areas, brushing against travelers' backs or wrapping around their shoulders. Some describe the sensation of an invisible hand lightly tugging at them, urging them to step back or turn around. The cold is sometimes accompanied by a sense of pressure, a weight of presence that seems to watch and follow every movement across the bridge. Auditory experiences are equally unsettling. Many visitors report whispers carried by the river breeze, faint voices that seem to call out from nowhere. Some describe hearing their names spoken softly, as if someone or something is attempting to gain their attention. Others report hearing phantom footsteps along the wooden planks, echoing in patterns that do not match the movements of people present. At times, the sounds are synchronized with the fleeting shadows, making it seem as though the bridge is alive with the echoes of unseen travelers. Some witnesses have even reported hearing soft cries of distress that vanish as quickly as they appear, leaving only the damp, fog-laden air. The history of the Clackamas River Bridge offers some explanation for these phenomena. The surrounding river and terrain have long been treacherous, with numerous accidents over the decades. Locals believe that spirits of those who fell or drowned near the bridge linger, their energy clinging to the structure and the surrounding mist. Tales tell of travelers who slipped along the wet deck or fell from the rails into the rushing water below. And it is these tragic moments that many say are replayed through the bridge's spectral manifestations. Shadows along the rails, phantom footsteps, and sudden gusts of icy air are considered the lingering traces of those lost souls. Environmental factors amplify the eerie atmosphere. Dense fog often limits visibility, causing headlights or lanterns to create distorted shapes and reflections across the wet surface. The river itself produces faint, haunting sounds, the rush of water against the banks, distant logs drifting downstream that can be mistaken for voices or footsteps. Trees lining the riverbank cast long, twisting shadows that blend seamlessly with the dark forms seen on the bridge, creating illusions that further confuse and unsettle. Even the natural creaks and groans of the bridge underweight seem to echo unnaturally, sometimes occurring in moments perfectly timed with the appearance of shadows or gusts, adding to the sensation of otherworldly activity. Shadows near the guardrails, or figures glimpsed in peripheral vision, create a constant awareness of unseen eyes tracking their movements. Pedestrians often describe a hesitation midway across, a sudden awareness of invisible presence, urging them to reconsider each step. Drivers, too, sometimes sense this feeling as they navigate the bridge at night, catching brief, inexplicable glimpses of figures along the shoulder or in the mist. This persistent sense of observation lends the bridge a spectral quality that is impossible to ignore. Despite its chilling reputation, Clackamas River Bridge remains a destination for those curious about the paranormal, as well as for routine travelers unaware of its haunted lore. Some are drawn by the thrill of experiencing a haunted site firsthand, while others inadvertently encounter the bridge's eerie manifestations during night crossings. For those attuned to paranormal activity, the bridge becomes more than a simple passage over the river. It is a threshold where history and tragedy linger, a place where the presence of the past feels palpably close. Accounts suggest that the longer one remains on or near the bridge, the more intense the experience becomes. Shadows seem to linger, whispers grow slightly louder, and the icy gusts become more insistent. The bridge appears to act as a conduit, connecting the world of the living with echoes of past tragedies. Each traveler crossing after dark becomes part of the ongoing story, encountering forces that seem intent on replaying moments from a time long past. The fog, the cold air, the fleeting shapes, and the whispered voices all combine to create an atmosphere charged with tension, mystery, and the unmistakable sensation that the bridge is never truly empty. The Sandy River Gorge Bridge in Troutdale spans a deep, rugged chasm carved by the rushing waters of the Sandy River. By day, it appears as a straightforward structure, offering scenic views of the surrounding forested cliffs and the river snaking far below. Yet after dusk, the bridge takes on an entirely different presence, becoming a site of chilling encounters that have drawn the curiosity and caution of locals and travelers alike. Over the years, numerous reports have described experiences that suggest the bridge is haunted by unseen forces, leaving many to question what truly lies within the fog and shadows. Visitors frequently speak of sudden icy gusts that sweep across the walkway, chilling the skin and sending shivers down the spine. These gusts often appear without any natural explanation, passing through travelers as if carried by an unseen hand. Pedestrians have described moments when the wind seems to come from nowhere, brushing across shoulders and whispering along the rails. Some report that the chill intensifies the longer they remain on the bridge, as though some presence is drawing them further into the misty expanse. These gusts are accompanied by an almost tangible tension, a sensation that the air itself is alive with something unseen, watching, waiting, and observing every step. Shadows on the Sandy River Gorge Bridge add to its eerie reputation. Many witnesses have described fleeting forms that move independently of any light source, flitting across the deck or appearing along the guardrails. At times, these shadows take the vague shape of human figures, standing motionless in the fog before vanishing the moment one attempts to approach. Others have recounted seeing silhouettes pacing along the walkway, their movement deliberate yet ghostly, leaving no trace beyond the fading impression of their passage. The interplay of fog, dim lighting, and the natural shadows of the gorge itself creates a disorienting environment where the boundary between reality and apparition feels dangerously thin. Auditory phenomena further enhance the bridge's unsettling character. Echoing whispers are a common report, voices that seem to come from nowhere, yet carry across the gorge, bouncing off the steep walls of rock and water below. Some visitors claim the whispers are coherent, calling out names or repeating phrases as though recounting long-forgotten stories. Others report hearing the faint sounds of footsteps accompanying the shadows, a rhythmic echo that does not match any known travelers on the bridge. On rare occasions, these footsteps accelerate or halt suddenly, aligning with the movements of figures glimpsed in peripheral vision, leaving witnesses with an unnerving sense of being followed or observed by an unseen companion. The history of the Sandy River Gorge area provides context for these reports. The gorge has long been a treacherous passage, with accidents and missteps occurring along its cliffs and bridge crossings. Travelers who fell or were swept away by the river are thought to have left lingering traces, their energy somehow attached to the bridge and surrounding terrain. Locals tell stories of figures appearing in the fog who seem to mimic lost travelers, stepping along the walkway before vanishing without warning. The combination of natural hazards and tragic histories creates a setting where supernatural interpretations are easily drawn. and many claim that the bridge acts as a threshold between the present and echoes of past misfortune. Environmental factors amplify the haunting experience. Dense fog frequently rolls through the gorge, reducing visibility and diffusing light sources, so headlights, flashlights, and street lamps cast strange and distorted patterns. Reflections on the wet deck of the bridge can create illusions of movement, while the rushing river below produces sounds that can be mistaken for human activity. The natural creaks and groans of the bridge underweight also contribute to the sense of life, especially when experienced in isolation. Even a single pedestrian crossing at night may feel surrounded by multiple presences. The environment, layering real and imagined stimuli into a disorienting, almost otherworldly experience. Some travelers report a strong sense of being watched while on the bridge. Shadows appear at eye level. Figures in the fog seem to follow movements from a distance, and fleeting glimpses along the guardrails suggest a presence just beyond reach. Pedestrians often pause midway across, feeling an invisible gaze tracking their progress. A silent pressure urging them to reconsider each step. Even drivers passing over at night report seeing shapes along the shoulder, fleeting glimpses that vanish as headlights approach. These sensations contribute to the bridge's reputation as a place where the boundary between the living and the spectral is almost tangible. Accounts suggest that prolonged exposure intensifies these experiences. The longer one remains on or near the bridge, the more pronounced the shadows become, the gusts colder, and the whispers more persistent. Some witnesses have felt invisible hands lightly brushing their clothing, a sensation that stops abruptly when they attempt to confront it. Others have reported lights from vehicles or nearby structures flickering or dimming in synchrony with the appearance of shadows, enhancing the sense that the bridge itself is a conduit for lingering energies. The fog, the echoes, the icy wind, and the fleeting figures all combine to create a layered, unsettling environment that is impossible to ignore. Despite its unnerving reputation, the Sandy River Gorge Bridge continues to attract travelers. Some come intentionally, drawn by stories of paranormal activity, while others encounter the bridge's phenomena unexpectedly. For those attuned to the supernatural, the bridge becomes more than a passageway. It transforms into a place of observation, memory, and lingering tragedy, where the spirits of those lost may still wander the fog and shadows. Each crossing, whether by foot or vehicle, carries the possibility of an encounter, an unexplainable brush with forces unseen but deeply felt. The Deschutes Gorge Bridge in Bend is a striking structure, spanning the Deschutes River, with a dramatic arch that frames the surrounding cliffs and forested banks. By day, it appears as a testament to engineering, offering travelers sweeping views of the gorge below and the sparkling river flowing through it. However, as twilight descends, the bridge takes on a different character, one tinged with mystery and unease. Over the years, countless witnesses have reported encounters with phenomena that suggest the presence of spirits lingering long after the bridge's construction, creating an atmosphere of tension and curiosity that has persisted for decades. Visitors often speak first of the cold breezes that seem to appear out of nowhere. Unlike ordinary wind, these gusts move in unexpected ways, cutting across the deck and brushing against passers-by, even when the air is still elsewhere. Many describe an immediate drop in temperature as they step onto the bridge, as if the cold itself carries the weight of lingering memories. Pedestrians have reported feeling chills sweep across their backs or hands, accompanied by an inexplicable sense that something unseen is nearby. The wind is more than a natural phenomenon. It behaves as though aware of the people crossing the bridge, reacting to their movements and presence. Shadows are another frequently reported phenomenon on the Deschutes Gorge Bridge. Witnesses have described shapes moving independently of any natural source of light, crossing the deck or appearing along the railings with a deliberate, human-like motion. At times, these shadows are fleeting, disappearing when approached, yet leaving an unsettling impression that someone or something is observing. Others have seen elongated silhouettes gliding along the walkway against the natural direction of the wind, their movement defying explanation. The interplay of the gorgeous fog, the river's reflection, and the dim ambient light creates an environment in which shadows seem almost alive, heightening the sense of otherworldly activity. Auditory experiences on the bridge further reinforce its haunted reputation. Phantom footsteps are commonly reported, echoing across the deck long after the last traveler has passed. These steps often appear to follow visitors, keeping pace as if an invisible companion is walking alongside them. Occasionally, these footsteps stop abruptly, coinciding with shadows appearing in peripheral vision or gusts of icy air sweeping past. The sound carries across the gorge, bouncing off the cliffs in a way that makes the whispers seem simultaneously distant and intimate, as though the bridge itself speaks to those who cross it. Many local accounts connect the Deschutes Gorge Bridge's strange activity to its history and location. The river gorge has been a treacherous passage for centuries, with stories of travelers falling, accidents occurring during construction, and individuals swept away by the swift currents below. These tragic events have led some to believe that the spirits of those who perished remain attached to the bridge, replaying their last moments, or attempting to interact with the living. Witnesses have reported seeing figures pause mid-deck, gazing across the river, or mimicking the movements of pedestrians before vanishing into thin air. The bridge becomes, in these accounts, a threshold where past tragedies bleed into the present, and where memory and spirit seem intertwined. Environmental factors contribute significantly to the eerie atmosphere. Fog frequently drifts through the gorge, obscuring vision and creating a dreamlike, distorted landscape. The river below adds its own soundtrack, with the gurgle of water echoing up to the deck in ways that mimic human movement. Structural creaks, the sound of loose railings, and vibrations from passing vehicles can all mimic footsteps or shadowy movement, layering real stimuli with spectral interpretation. At night, the lighting along the bridge can flicker unexpectedly, intensifying the perception of paranormal activity. These elements combine to create a disorienting, immersive experience for anyone crossing after dark. Sightings are not limited to shadows and gusts. Some visitors report the appearance of full-bodied apparitions, figures that seem human yet are semi-transparent and ghostly. They may stand still at the edges of the bridge, pacing slowly along the walkway, or appear mid-crossing before disappearing into the mist. Drivers have occasionally reported glimpsing figures standing at the railings, only for them to vanish as headlights approach. Pedestrians often feel an unshakable awareness of being watched, a pressure in the air that heightens the sensation of the bridge as a living, reactive entity rather than a static structure. Prolonged exposure often seems to amplify these encounters. The longer one remains on the bridge, the more intense the sensations become. Shadows appear more frequently, gusts of wind grow sharper, and the faint footsteps and whispers increase in both volume and clarity. Some witnesses describe a tingling sensation along the skin, as though invisible hands are brushing against them, or a weight pressing against their back, urging them to move faster. These occurrences are unpredictable, creating a sense of suspense and unease that keeps travelers alert and wary. Despite its unnerving reputation, the Deschutes Gorge Bridge continues to attract visitors, from thrill seekers to those simply curious about its history. Some come hoping to witness a ghostly figure or hear the faint footsteps that so many have described. Others cross by necessity and leave with a lingering impression of having shared space with forces they cannot see or explain. Every crossing carries the potential for an encounter, whether through shadow, sound, or sudden cold, and for many, the experience leaves an indelible memory. The Willamette River winds through Portland, its calm waters framed by a series of bridges that connect neighborhoods and carry the pulse of the city above. From the historic steel of the St. John's Bridge to the modern arcs of the Tillicum Crossing, each structure carries not just traffic and pedestrians, but stories and secrets that linger long after sunset. Locals and visitors alike have reported strange and unexplainable phenomena along these bridges, creating a reputation for paranormal activity that has persisted for decades. The experiences shared by those who have crossed the river on these bridges paint a picture of a world where the living and the unseen brush against one another in fleeting, often chilling encounters. Many witnesses describe sudden gusts of wind that seem to appear from nowhere. Unlike ordinary breezes, These gusts are localized, sweeping across the decks of the bridges while the surrounding air remains still. Pedestrians report feeling an icy chill pass over them, brushing against their necks or hands, often accompanied by the sensation that someone or something is walking closely behind. The gusts are unpredictable, striking during warm, calm evenings or in the quiet of early morning before the city has stirred. For many, these sudden winds are more than uncomfortable. They feel like invisible presences, warning or observing, adding a heightened sense of awareness as one crosses the span. Shadows are another common phenomenon reported along the Willamette River bridges. Visitors often speak of shapes moving independently of any light source, appearing in corners or along railings where no one should be. These shadows are frequently described as human in form, pacing slowly or pausing as if watching passersby. Some pedestrians claim that shadows mimic their movements, following step by step until the witness quickens their pace or reaches the other side. The fog that often drifts over the river enhances these spectral sightings, blending reflection, darkness, and mist to create figures that seem both tangible and fleeting. At times, the shadows appear only for a moment, vanishing when approached, leaving a lingering unease that many describe as the sensation of having been observed by another presence. Auditory experiences further reinforce the bridge's haunted reputation. Phantom footsteps echo across walkways long after the last pedestrian has passed, sometimes matching the rhythm of those crossing. On several occasions, people have reported faint whispers carried by the wind, voices that seem to originate from nowhere, speaking in low tones or calling out names. The acoustic properties of the river and the structures amplify these sounds, making them appear simultaneously distant and close, as though the water itself carries the murmurs of those who came before. Some accounts even describe faint laughter or murmured conversation from the midpoints of bridges, moments that vanish as quickly as they appear but leave a lasting impression on those who hear them. The paranormal activity is not limited to pedestrians. Drivers have occasionally seen full-bodied apparitions standing along the edges or pacing the lanes, figures that vanish when approached. Cyclists report cold drafts brushing past them on empty decks, accompanied by fleeting shadows at the corners of their vision. These experiences are often linked to the rich histories of the bridges themselves. Many of the spans over the Willamette were constructed in the early 20th century. During eras of intense industrial activity and frequent accidents, workers who fell during construction, travelers lost in misadventures, and those swept away by the river are thought to linger, attached to the structures and the spaces where their lives ended unexpectedly. Environmental factors contribute to the eerie atmosphere as well. Fog rolling over the river in the early morning or late evening can create the illusion of movement and depth where none exists. The reflective surface of the water often distorts lights from the city or from passing vehicles, making stationary objects appear to flicker or shift. Metal railings creak under natural expansion, and wooden walkways groan, all of which can mimic footsteps or whispering. When combined with the localized gusts of cold wind, these environmental cues amplify the perception of paranormal activity, making the bridges feel alive and reactive to human presence. Many witnesses also report prolonged exposure, intensifying the phenomena. The longer a person remains on the bridge after dark, the more pronounced the sensations become. Shadows appear more frequently, gusts grow sharper, and whispers become more distinct. Some pedestrians describe a tingling or pressure along the skin, as though invisible hands are brushing or holding them. These experiences often leave a lasting impression, making those who encounter them wary of returning alone. Sightings and experiences vary between bridges, but the themes are consistent. The St. John's Bridge is known for ghostly silhouettes, climbing its towers and pacing the cables. The Burnside and Hawthorne bridges have reports of footsteps echoing on empty decks, accompanied by sudden gusts of icy wind. Even the modern Tillicum Crossing, dedicated to pedestrians and public transit, has accounts of fleeting shadows and cold spots that appear without explanation. Across the Willamette, these experiences form a tapestry of unexplained activity, linking the bridges not just as crossings over water, but as pathways where past and present converge. And there you have it, 25 haunted bridges in Oregon, where strange cold breezes chill the bones. Shadows move in impossible ways, and unseen presences watch from the dark. These bridges remind us that crossing from one side to the other is more than a journey, it's a passage into the unknown. If this exploration of Oregon's haunted bridges sent shivers down your spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another ghostly tale. Until next time, tread carefully across the bridges, because some spirits never let travelers leave, and some cold breezes carry whispers from the past.